Chapter 74. Sangawa City. The city that was filled with jubilation yesterday had turned into a shattered land today. The vast central streets were filled with the wreckage of buildings. The square that was originally used to park all kinds of large Zoids had become a large graveyard full of Zoids' corpses. In the sky above this city that had already become a land of death, an ominous and extremely disgusting aura was floating. It was as if there were countless resentful spirits churning in this aura, lamenting the horror of destruction. However, in this land that was about to become a land of death, there was still a group of people fighting hard, fighting against the monsters hidden in the dark clouds that were filled with blood and fire. Old Gaza, can you still hold on? A figure suddenly rushed out of the dark clouds. It was the lightning leopard. A voice came from the lightning leopard's cockpit. It seemed to be calling out to its companion, who was also fighting in the dark clouds. Boom! The dark clouds rolled, and a flash of light tore through the layers of dark clouds. At the same time, a figure that was even bigger than the lightning leopard rushed out of the dark clouds and landed beside the lightning leopard with a rumbling sound. It was Old Gaza. It was the heavy artillery bison that Old Gaza was piloting. Hey, Old Gaza, can't you do it? This is not like you in the past. Old Gaza's unyielding voice came from the communication device. Hee, Old Gaza, don't laugh at me. Your heavy artillery bison is also injured. Old Gaza was Lei Ming. The moment the heavy artillery bison broke through the dark clouds, he saw a deep and narrow wound on the left thigh of the heavy artillery bison from the monitor screen. Hee, this is just a small injury. Compared to when you were young, these wounds are everywhere. Right, old buddy. Old Gaza chuckled nonchalantly. His heavy artillery bison also seemed to respond to Old Gaza's words and let out a low growl. Then, the chuckle on Old Gaza's lips disappeared. His gaze became serious, and his voice became low. Old Sadr, Didi, and the others have already left. When he heard the names mentioned by Old Gaza, Lei Ming's heart could not help but sink. What will come eventually. There is no need for us to be sad. The moment Lei Ming's hoarse voice rang out, the lightning leopard suddenly jumped a few meters to the right. Immediately after, it moved the cannon on its back and fired 2 consecutive shots at its original position. Boom! Boom! Flames continued to erupt. In the billowing smoke, a flash of light suddenly appeared. It was a lightning leopard, and it was a lightning leopard. Under Lei Ming's control, not only did it jump horizontally to dodge the attacks hidden in the dark clouds, it also quickly returned fire. In that instant, it sped up and charged forward to deliver a fatal claw attack. Boom! Amidst the rolling black clouds, a black shadow broke through the air and continuously rolled on the ground until it crashed heavily into the half-collapsed house not far away. Then it stopped moving. TSK. There's no end to these monsters. Old Geezer cursed as he looked at the huge silhouette that had stopped moving and was engulfed by the sparks coming out of its body. If they could finish it, my son and the others wouldn't have died in Anawa City. Old Gaza, how much time do we have? Lei Ming's expression was still solemn. He couldn't fall before the time they had agreed upon. Old Gaza glanced at the screen in front of him and continued, There's still half an hour. We should be the only ones left here. In the east and south of the city are the teams led by the Anya family and the Hammond family respectively. However, their situation shouldn't be much better than ours. Lei Ming frowned and immediately made a decision. Gather all the people who are still alive. Otherwise, we won't be able to hold on for the last half an hour. Okay, Old Gaza could not help but nod at Lei Ming's words. The reason why these old fellows stay behind was because, in addition to not being a burden to the evacuation convoy, they also took the opportunity to join forces with their old partners to snipe the dark clouds that had devoured 1/3 of the Empire's territory and left the Empire helpless. Of course, in their current state, fighting might be a luxury. However, they had no other choice. Instead of mingling with the evacuation convoy, eating and waiting for death, and watching the other young people fight with their lives on the line against the ominous dark clouds, they might as well attack together with their old partners and burn the last of their lives to pave a way for their descendants to survive. What Lei Ming said about Gears having Gears ambitions was also the voice of the old fellows who were still fighting in this land of death. It was also the voice of many old fellows who had died in battle. Boom! Boom! There seemed to be no end to the monsters in the dark clouds. No matter how the lightning leopard and the heavy artillery bison attacked together, the monsters' attacks did not weaken at all. At this point, even if the lightning leopard and the heavy artillery bison could still hold on, the old Lei Ming and old Gaza were gradually reaching their limits. Phew! Old man, can you still hold on? Old Gaza, who was unwilling to admit defeat, asked while panting. I'm still okay. Old Gaza, are you at your limit? Lei Ming took a deep breath, barely managing to calm down his somewhat chaotic breathing, and jokingly said, TSK, you're the one who can't do it. A man, no matter how old he is, can't say that he's at his limit. As soon as old Gaza's voice fell, the dark clouds that were besieging the lightning leopard and the heavy artillery bison suddenly paused. All the monsters hidden within gradually retreated and disappeared into the dark clouds. Old man, were our intentions discovered? No. Lei Ming's intuition told him that things were not that simple. The next moment, the dark clouds that had paused surged once again. But this time, the dark clouds actually rushed in a certain direction, as if they wanted to gather together. That's the area that Anya family is in charge of. Let's go. However, before Lei Ming and old Gaza could rush over, the real monster appeared in the rolling dark clouds. Looking at the huge body that blotted out the sky, looking at the silhouette that had appeared countless times in their nightmares, Lei Ming and old Gaza both shouted its name in a trembling voice. Asmodai. Old Gaza's hands and feet were trembling. This was not because he was afraid, but because he was too excited. His eldest son had died in battle against this Asmodai that had suddenly appeared on the continent several years ago. Now, it was time for the father to make his move. Old partner, hurry up. Old Gaza's heavy artillery bison let out an earth-shattering roar and accelerated toward the area where Asmodai was located. Lei Ming's gaze was also fixed on Asmodai. His son, Lei Kai, had also died in the hands of Asmodai. He and old Gaza had the same thought. Therefore, the lightning leopard charged forward with all its might. However, when the lightning leopard and the heavy artillery bison arrived at the area where Asmodai was located, they were shocked to find metal remains scattered all over the ground under the feet of this monster named Asmodai. This was the mobile wolf and the armored fortress tortoise driven by the Anya family. Not to mention the mobile wolf. Even the armored fortress tortoise with powerful defense was defeated by Asmodai, resulting in a tragic ending of being dismembered and scattered all over the ground. This change surprised Lei Ming and old Gaza, but they also felt that it was reasonable. Is this the strength of Asmodai that destroyed 3 legions of our empire in a single day? Old Gaza's hands were trembling nonstop. This time, it was no longer due to excitement. Instead, it was due to the instinctive instinct to avoid danger. Yes, Lei Ming took a deep breath. Let's do it. The lightning leopard's figure flashed, and it had already rushed over 100 meters away. Asmodai's attention was immediately attracted by the lightning leopard that had rushed up to him. Hands. A pair of huge hands appeared on Asmodai's back. Then, the huge hands slapped toward the lightning leopard with a loud sound of wind. Boom! An explosion rang out. However, it was not the sound of the lightning leopard exploding. Instead, the huge hands slapping toward the lightning leopard were repeatedly attacked by the heavy artillery bison, causing them to lose their aim due to the impact of the explosion. Well done, Lei Ming praised. Then, he discovered that another pair of huge hands had appeared on Asmodai's back. There were 2 energy beam cannons in the palms of the huge hands. Seeing this, Lei Ming immediately realized that something was wrong. The 2 energy beam cannons were not aimed at the lightning leopard, but at the heavy artillery bison's position. Old Gaza, run. However, a laugh filled with unwillingness came from the communication device. Hey, Are you here? Old man, you'll have to rely on yourself from now on. My old partner can't run anymore. What? Lei Ming was stunned. He immediately remembered the injury on the heavy artillery bison's thigh. No. Lei Ming's eyes were filled with anger. He recklessly drove the lightning leopard toward Asmodee's back. As long as he could hit the huge hands with the energy beam cannons, then the heavy artillery bison would have a chance to survive. Old man, don't waste your energy. I'll stop here. A dazzling and scarlet light suddenly illuminated the area, deeply piercing Lei Ming's eyes. Old Gaza's last words, which were cut off halfway, rang in his ears. Bang! The lightning leopard in midair had nowhere to hide. Seizing the opportunity, Asmodee sent it flying with a slap, heavily crashing into a high wall not far away. Old man, stand up. In a lightning leopard's cockpit, Lei Ming endured the extremely uncomfortable dizziness and pulled the control lever over and over again, trying to get the temporarily paralyzed lightning leopard to stand up again. However, he was unable to do as he wished. The scarlet and dazzling light once again lit up. The energy beam cannon that had just destroyed the heavy artillery bison began to roar again. This time, its target was the paralyzed lightning leopard on the ground. Lei Ming clenched his teeth tightly and pulled the control lever over and over again, calling out to his old partner, the lightning leopard, until the two scarlet light finished charging. Is it over? Guy, you want to... Lei Ming, who knew that he was at his limit, suddenly gave up struggling and quietly waited for the moment when it would end. All of a sudden, a blue lightning bolt suddenly broke through the dark clouds and leaped into the air at lightning speed, crashing straight into Asmodee's huge hands that were ready to attack. Wong! The energy beam that was supposed to bring Lei Ming to his end broke through the void, tore through the dark clouds, and destroyed all the buildings in its path, but it did not hit the paralyzed lightning leopard on the ground. Lei Ming and the lightning leopard survived. Grandpa, are you okay? Lei Ming, who was waiting for the end, suddenly heard Rei Mingkai's voice. He opened his eyes in shock and looked at the screen in front of him, only to discover an unfamiliar, yet somewhat familiar figure blocking in front of the lightning leopard. This is... The memories hidden in Lei Ming's mind gradually surfaced and quickly overlapped with the figure blocking in front of the lightning leopard. In an instant, Lei Ming's eyes widened. His face was filled with disbelief. Long Fong Lion, Style 0, and it's even a European hunter form. How is this possible? Nothing is impossible. Grandpa, I'm coming. Rei Mingkai's voice rang out in the communication channel again, and at the same time, Rei Mingkai's head appeared in the lightning leopard's cockpit. Impossible. Let's not talk about why the Long Fong Lion 0 form appeared here. Just based on the European hunting form, it's impossible for a child like you. Halfway through, Lei Ming was speechless, because he saw that Rei Mingkai's thin body was faintly discernible with a thin layer of force field protecting Rei Mingkai within. This was probably the reason why Lei Mingkai was able to withstand the overload of the pilot's overload brought by the hunter form. Let's not talk about this anymore. Grandpa, let's deal with Asmodee first. I know how to deal with Asmodee, but I need someone to attract the monster's attention. Rei Mingkai's words made Lei Ming stunned. Then he chuckled a few times and jokingly said, Okay, Kai, you've grown up. You actually learned how to order Grandpa around. When this is over, see how I'll teach you a lesson. Old buddy, it's time to get up. Lei Ming once again called out to his old buddy. This time, the lightning leopard responded. The lightning leopard could be seen struggling to stand up from the rubble, striding forward with all its might and once again running faster. Yes, that's it. Old buddy, our children are all rushing over to help. We can't fail like this. Put in more effort. Under Lei Ming's encouragement, the lightning leopard ran faster and faster, almost leaving behind a series of afterimages, once again attracting Asmodee's attention, but it was unable to smash the lightning leopard into the wall like the previous time. The lightning leopard sped up, and sped up again, causing Asmodee's body to continuously spin. Over and over again, His back was exposed to the lion hunter who was waiting for an opportunity to explode. Wait, wait, wait. In the cockpit of the long-fanged lion, Lei Mingkai held his breath and stared at the back that was exposed in front of him again and again. Suddenly, a flash of light appeared in Rei Mingkai's eyes. Chance! State 0, charge! Rei Mingkai pushed with both hands, and the blue lion hunting immediately activated the two plasma thrusters on its back. Boom! The moment the blazing plasma flames erupted, Leo completed the entire process from stillness to movement. Erupting with a speed even faster than the lightning leopard, it once again displayed the elegance of the blue lightning from before. It charged towards Asmodee's back, aiming for the weak point. So fast, it's like lightning. Lei Ming used a broken building to evade Asmodee's pursuit. Then he saw the sudden burst of speed displayed by the long-fanged lion hunting O. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, the long-fanged lion Painio had already continuously flashed across Asmodee's 100-meter-tall body, before dashing all the way to Asmodee's back. Just like in Lei Mingkai's memories, it was right in front of Asmodee's weak point. This time, the outcome will definitely be different. Roar! The lion hunting's plasma engine once again burst out at full power. The sharp laser claws also burst out with a dazzling and fatal light. Go! Lion hunting! In the midst of the plasma flames, the lion hunting who was rushing towards the weak point raised its laser claws and suddenly slammed down. Ka! Whoosh! A crisp sound. A gust of wind. The lion hunting hit the weak point on Asmodee's back, heavily falling to the ground, leaving 4 deep and long claw marks. Ka! 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 Boom! Countless cracks spread out from the shattered weak points, and Asmodee was blasted apart with a loud bang. The surrounding black clouds were also swept away by this explosion, and the sun once again shone on this silent city. This is it. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Lei Ming, who once destroyed 3 core of the Empire, and personally witnessed his good friend die in the hands of Asmodee, could hardly believe that this monster was so easily dealt with. Yes, it's over. Grandfather, don't ask me why. I just happen to know Asmodee's weakness. Rei Mingkai listened to Lei Ming's carefree laughter, but suddenly felt that something was wrong. Ha 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 ha. Was it a coincidence? Good. Very good. Looks like our decision was right. Kai, now, turn around and leave this place. It's time to execute the last step of the plan. Amidst Lei Ming's laughter, the lightning leopard slowly turned around, walked out of the sunlight, and disappeared into the black clouds. Grandfather, you. The lion hunting chased for a few steps, but was stopped by Lei Ming. Stop. Kai, you're good. Although I don't know what happened to you in this short period of time. But your performance is enough to prove that our choice was right. Hope is the most beautiful thing in this era. We choose to leave it to you. Go. Kai, turn around and leave this place. Rei Mingkai opened his mouth, and just as he was about to speak, State Zero's voice rang in his ears. Kai, give up. Although you killed Asmodee, don't forget that this world develops according to established rules, which means that you can't stop Lei Ming's sacrifice. Rei Mingkai clenched his teeth and hammered the control panel. Is there no way to stop it? Even if this world is established? No, but there's a way to restore it to its original state. The figure of the white cat State Zero quietly appeared in the cockpit of the lion hunting. Its gaze pierced through the black clouds and fell on the central square of Sangawu City, which was slowly walking towards it. Restore? Can you restore it to its original state? Yes, but you must retrieve all the pieces, which are the puzzle pieces that you and the female doctor said. My strength will also be restored. The lion hunting, this is one of the forms of strength that I can restore. The white cat State Zero raised its paw and patted the control panel. Look, this world is coming to an end. The white cat raised its paw and pointed to the depths of the black clouds, where the lightning leopard was. There, a power that made Rei Mingkai's heart palpitate awakened. The earth-shattering scene in the recovered memory reappeared in front of Rei Mingkai's eyes. In the dazzling white light, Lei Ming's figure disappeared, and the lightning leopard's figure disappeared, leaving behind the vast expanse of white that swallowed the world. Wake up, Kai. Dreams will eventually come to an end. Reality is what you should pay attention to. As the white cat state 0 got up, the lion hunting also gradually disappeared, leaving Rei Minkai standing in the same place. As long as I find all the pieces, everything can be restored? Rei Minkai asked. Exactly. Also, your Royal Highness has become a community of destiny with us. Let's meet in reality. Kai. After saying that, the figure of the white cat state 0 disappeared. Immediately after, a sense of weightlessness hit, making Rei Minkai feel dizzy. When the sound rang in his ears again, it was the sound of gas leakage and some noisy voices. Experiment ended. Experimental subject's body is in good condition, data confirmed. Experimental subject's body is recovering normally. Consciousness is beginning to awaken. When Rei Minkai slowly opened his eyes from the noise, he saw Ministry of Justice Shi Hui and he Mimi standing next to the crystal container again. Rei Minkai subconsciously raised his hand and turned his head to avoid the dazzling light in front of him, and asked, "How long has it been?" "About 5 hours." Ministry of Justice Shi Hui looked down at her watch and said, 5 hours? I feel like a few years have passed. Rei Minkai froze for a moment and smiled bitterly. He Mimi raised her hand to signal the others to move the dazzling light away, and said, "It seems that you have experienced a very long dream. Do you have any thoughts?" Thoughts? Rei Minkai walked out from the opened rectangular crystal container, moved his hands and feet, and said with a sigh, "Maybe some, but I think I found the answer." "Oh, can you tell me about it?" Ministry of Justice Shi Hui's eyes lit up. She felt like the breakthrough of Project 06 was today. But Rei Minkai didn't answer the question. Instead, he looked at Mimi and asked with a serious expression, "How can I find something like this puzzle? Or, what can I do to have the power to find this puzzle?" Hearing this, Mimi and Mimi looked at each other in surprise. Mimi thought for a moment and gave an answer. "There's a way, but you have to think about it carefully." "What way?" "Join our SPF authority and become a member of the patrol team. Then, you will have enough authority and power to travel across the world to find what you want." At this point, Mimi added another sentence. "Of course, the premise is that you have to complete the mission given to you by our SPF authority." Chapter 75. In the Clear Sky. The formation formed by the 5 VF-31s flew across the sky, heading for a higher and wider world. Below the fleet of VF-31, in a lush green park, a young man was looking up at the fleet of VF-31 flying into the sky, towards the dark but even more vast space. After a long time, when the VF-31s completely disappeared into the sky, the young man slowly lowered his head and looked at the lake in front of him. A group of swans with pure white feathers were resting on the sparkling lake. They sometimes paddled on the surface of the lake slowly and gracefully, and sometimes they stopped and turned their small heads to look around. They seemed to be at ease. Behind the group of swans, there was a pavilion in the center of the lake. In the pavilion, there was a device that looked like a piano. It seemed to be the place where the music class was used. The young man closed his eyes and felt the cool breeze blowing against his face. His thoughts cannot help but drift. It had been 3 days since the City of Stars returned to the synchronous orbit of planet Homecoming. It was also the 2nd day since the young man landed on this planet from the City of Stars, planet Homecoming. The young man was none other than Rei Minkai, who decided to join the SPF authority. However, Mimi put him on planet Homecoming on the grounds that he needed to be investigated. She gave him 3 days to move freely and waited for the results of the investigation to be released. Rei Minkai did not know what the investigation Mimi mentioned was. He only knew that from the moment he set foot on planet Homecoming, he was stunned by everything on planet Homecoming. Planet Homecoming. From the public information, this was a desolate planet located in the periphery of the solar system. It was farther away than the Kuiper Belt, which was far away from the solar system. It was hidden in the dark space. Decades ago, without the knowledge of the humans in this world, a group of unknown alien monsters, who were later called Beta, occupied this planet and used it as a springboard to invade the solar system. They gradually invaded the inner part of the solar system, the mother planet of mankind, Earth. Humans. In the face of the invasion of the Beta, the humans of this world may have had a trace of resistance at first, but in the case of internal strife, they lost one opportunity after another. In the end, they ended up building spaceships, taking away a small number of elites, and abandoning most of the humans on Earth. These were the memories that Lei Mingkai had of this world that he had recovered. However, the world before his eyes had changed. The dying humans were saved, and with the help of a powerful foreign force, they counterattacked Beta and gradually recaptured the solar system. Finally, on this dark planet that Beta was used as a springboard to invade the solar system, they built a distant base. The result was the green, thriving life planet in front of Rei Mingkai's eyes. Rei Mingkai raised his head and looked at the dazzling but unusually warm light in the sky. This was not the center of the solar system, the sun. Instead, it was the foreign force that had carried out a massive ecological reconstruction project that could be called a miracle of life on this desolate planet that they had named Homing Star. Furthermore, in order to allow the planet to get enough sunlight and allow the oceans to flow, they, even more crazily, created an artificial sun and selected an asteroid from the Kuiper Belt that met the basic conditions to transform it and let it serve as a satellite in a similar position to the moon. These super miracles that only existed in Rei Mingkai's original world were realized just like that. In the final analysis, the rebirth of Homing Star was a huge amount of research they had carried out on the evolution of Earth's ecosphere. It's really like a fantasy. Rei Mingkai's gaze was fixed on a group of swans that had begun to accelerate and flap their wings on the lake. He watched them fly into the blue sky one by one under the lead of the goose. Amidst the splashes caused by these white elves, a pleasant piano sound rang out. At the same time, there was also a burst of singing. First, it was a clear and pleasant female voice, followed by a tender and somewhat chaotic child's voice, as if it was carrying out music education. If the loss is to find it, then parting is to meet by chance. After goodbye, I'll meet hello. Rei Mingkai's ears twitched, and vaguely, he seemed to feel that the lyrics of this song seemed to be somewhat familiar. Surprised, Rei Mingkai's gaze passed through the splashes of the swans, the scattered feathers, and landed in the pavilion in the center of the lake, on the black-haired woman who was playing the piano and guiding the children around the piano. The woman had a beautiful face and a noble temperament. Her jet-black hair was draped over her back like silk. Her nimble hands danced rhythmically on the piano keys, playing pleasing notes one after another. This is... Rei Mingkai suddenly felt that the scene in front of him was somewhat familiar, but the children around the woman were indeed too strange. Although the appearance of those children was generally similar to that of humans, there was a clear sense of difference in subtle places. For example, the beast ears on their hair, the scales on their faces, and the arms that extended from their backs. At first glance, it was simply like a mythical creature. All of a sudden, Lei Mingkai recalled something. He seemed to already know the identity of the woman who was playing the piano. These familiar lyrics, these familiar melodies, and that familiar figure and temperament. Coupled with this wonderful world, the woman who was playing the piano in the pavilion was probably only her. Marina Ismail. That's her name. This was not Rei Mingkai's voice. At the same time as this voice sounded, Rei Mingkai suddenly felt that someone was peeping into his heart. He suddenly turned around and looked behind him, and then put on a defensive posture. But the next moment, Rei Mingkai looked at the person in surprise and subconsciously relaxed his body. Silver hair, silver skin, and that pair of eyes that were flowing with golden light. Although the face in front of him was somewhat different from the face in his memory, in Rei Mingkai's memory, There was only one person who met this condition. Chana F. Qingying. After Ray Minkai subconsciously said this name, he swallowed his saliva. This was too exciting. At first, he was still skeptical about his own guess, but he did not expect that the next moment he would welcome the truth that shocked even himself. It seems that Her Royal Highness is right. You are indeed extraordinary. I am Chana F. Qingying. That's right. The person who came was Chana F. Qingying. Moreover, it was Chana F. Qingying who was integrated with ELS in the ending of the original movie as a symbol of friendship between the two civilizations. Ray Minkai looked at Chana's right hand that was extended, hesitated for a moment, but still reached out and shook it. Unexpectedly, Chana's body that was integrated with ELS was not as cold and stiff as Ray Minkai imagined. Instead, it had the warmth and softness of a human. I'm Ray Minkai. It's nice to meet you. Chana F. Qingying. Me too. After Chana withdrew his right hand, his gaze looked over Ray Minkai's shoulder and fell on the pavilion. And then he suggested, how about we change places? If we stay here, it might affect Marina and the others' lessons. Ray Minkai nodded. As long as he saw Chana's eyes, Ray Minkai knew that perhaps the inspection that he mentioned had already begun. As for the feeling of peeking into his heart just now, it was definitely Chana's initiative. Otherwise, with Chana's ability after he integrated with ELS, Ray Minkai would not have been able to detect Chana's actions. The two left the lake, passed through the forest path, and came to a quiet corner. Ray Minkai, I was asked by Her Royal Highness to come and talk to you. I hope you can understand this immediately. Chana did not beat around the bush and directly stated his purpose of coming. Ray Minkai nodded. I've already guessed it. Chana, can I call you that? Chana nodded. Yes. Ray Minkai nodded in response, waiting for Chana's opening speech. Why do you want to join SPF Authority? Do you know what their duties are? Chana spoke. I don't know what SPF Authority is, but I want to join them to find the missing puzzle pieces as soon as possible. If I do this, maybe I can revive my hometown. Ray Minkai did not hide his thoughts, nor did he excessively stir up emotions. Just like Chana, he straightforwardly expressed his thoughts. That's all. The golden light in Chana's eyes shone brightly, and Ray Minkai suddenly felt a huge pressure emerging from the void, surrounding his body like a whirlpool. Every moment, they were all looking into his heart. This was an inspection. That's all. Ray Minkai replied calmly. Even after joining SPF Authority and realizing that there are some discrepancies in your thoughts, you still did not change your original intention? Chana's voice gradually became cold, and the power that peeked into Ray Minkai's heart grew stronger. Ray Minkai, there are almost no secrets in front of Chana. I won't change my original intention, but if SPF Authority can't fulfill my wish of reviving my hometown, I'll leave and find another way. Ray Minkai fearlessly looked into Chana's eyes, even though his mental strength was nothing compared to Chana's terrifying mental strength. Understood. Following Chana's voice, the huge pressure on Ray Minkai's shoulders suddenly disappeared, and Ray Minkai almost stumbled a few steps back. Chana quickly reached out and grabbed Ray Minkai and said apologetically, I'm very sorry. This is one of the necessary procedures to join SPF Authority. Originally, the pioneer himself was in charge, but due to certain reasons, I can only temporarily take over. After Ray Minkai thanked him, he asked in confusion, does this mean I've passed the inspection? No, it's just that I've passed. Ray Minkai, now, you can only be considered a reserve member of SPF Authority. Chapter 76. Investigation. It was so simple, yet so difficult. It seemed like a few simple sentences, but there were thousands of murderous intentions hidden in them. If someone who didn't know the situation looked down on Chana F. Qingying and gave a messy answer, Ray Minkai could imagine what kind of drastic measures Chana would take to deal with the people who tried to sneak into the SPF administration based on the original work. Just as Lame Minkai was about to ask Cha Na about the administration while he still had some time, he heard a noise coming from the path in the woods. He saw a beautiful figure in a white dress, surrounded by many children, slowly walking out of the forest path. Marina. Cha Na saw the person and nodded. She looked back at Ray Minkai and said, Ray Minkai, this is the end of the matter. You still have 24 hours of free time. After that, you have to report back to the authorities' headquarters in Xingyao City. Got it. Thank you very much. Ray Minkai nodded and tactfully said goodbye to Marina and the children, then turned and left. Although he did not ask Cha Na about the authority, he knew what to do next. Ray Minkai looked up at the sky that was beginning to turn yellow. After thinking about it, he felt that it was better to return to Xingyao City in advance. This was because Euphemia and White Cat State Zero were still there receiving treatment. According to the Ministry of Justice, Euphemia and White Cat State Zero should wake up in the next few days. Since the last experiment, the Ministry of Justice had obtained a lot of experimental data and guaranteed that Euphemia and White Cat State Zero could wake up as soon as possible. Ray Minkai already knew that White Cat State Zero would wake up, but he was still uncertain about Euphemia's situation. With this thought in mind, Ray Minkai took the spaceship to Xingyao City and returned to Xingyao City. He did not expect to see Mimi as soon as he got off the spaceship. Morning. Ray Minkai. The black-haired girl, Mimi, waved at Ray Minkai, gesturing for Ray Minkai to walk over. Ray Minkai raised his head and looked at the clock on the ceiling of the hall. He nodded and replied, Morning, Missy. Why are you here? Mimi smiled, seemingly a little embarrassed. It's nothing. I just want to congratulate you on passing the screening, and I want to take you somewhere. Thank you. Ray Minkai nodded. Seeing that there was still some time, he agreed to Mimi's request. Under the lead of Mimi, the two of them left the port and boarded an automatic, unmanned taxi to somewhere in the City of Stars. I hope the review won't bring you any unpleasant memories. This is one of the measures we must take. After all, your situation is special. We, in Viros, can only be given special treatment. As soon as they started the car, Mimi, who was sitting across from Ray Minkai, took the initiative to apologize. Ray Minkai was a little surprised. He thought that his screening was just a routine procedure. He did not expect it to be a special treatment. Seeing Ray Minkai's surprised look, Mimi shrugged and explained the reason. The S.P.F. Authority just finished their last recruitment. Now, a large number of new people are gathered in the S.P.F. Authority's inspector training grounds to receive training. Under these circumstances, there is no way to allow you to join the S.P.F. Authority through normal means. So we have to use a special method? Yes. Fortunately, you were one of the experimental personnel who participated in Project 06. Viros, who strictly monitored the personnel of the S.P.F. Authority, nodded in agreement. Mimi spread out her hands, indicating that there was nothing she could do. So, Cha Na F. Chinging appeared? Mimi nodded. Yes. Originally, Viros wanted the pioneer to step in, but due to some special reasons, it was changed to Cha Na F. Chinging. At this point, Mimi smiled bitterly. You should feel lucky. Otherwise, when the foreigner personally shows up, I'm afraid he'll be able to see through your heart. Huh? Ray Minkai was shocked. When he faced Cha Na just now, he had seen through Cha Na thoroughly. Could there be someone even more powerful? Don't be surprised. The reason why the pioneer is called a pioneer is because he is powerful. Mimi muttered a few words and looked out the window. We're here. The moment Ray Minkai stepped out of the car, he noticed that the surrounding scenery was somewhat out of place with the atmosphere of Xingyao City. There were no buildings around, only short, dense bushes and a road that led to the downtown area of Xingyao City. The monotonous street lamps on both sides of the road made the atmosphere seem particularly bleak. Buzz! The driverless car gradually went further and further away. It's here. Ray Minkai. This is the place I want you to see with your own eyes. If you insist on joining the authority, Himimi walked along the path in front of her and walked all the way to the bottom of a signboard with the words "The Land of Shining Stars" written on it, and said to Rei Minkai, "The Land of Shining Stars." Looking at this name, Rei Minkai seemed to feel something, and there was something strange in his heart. Yes, the Land of Shining Stars. Come in. Himimi nodded, and her face suddenly became solemn. She turned and walked into the Land of Shining Stars. Rei Minkai followed behind. The moment he stepped into this place, the surrounding light suddenly turned black. Then, before Rei Minkai could fully adapt to the darkness in front of him, starlight appeared. 1 point, 2 points, 3 points. Countless stars lit up one by one in a neat row in front of Rei Minkai's eyes. There were countless stars, all the way to the depths of the darkness that Rei Minkai's sight could not reach. However, in the starlight that filled the sky, Rei Minkai saw that behind this seemingly bright and beautiful starlight, there was another appearance. Words under the starlight that was closer to Rei Minkai. There was a paragraph of text that Rei Minkai did not understand, but as long as Rei Minkai looked down along this unfamiliar text, he would see a paragraph of Chinese at the bottom. It was written so: SPF. Authority Team C0791 found traces of civilization in World No. Z9901A. After investigation, the civilization called itself Arolos. It has been destroyed by the Abyss invasion. Rei Minkai's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly turned his head to look at the starlight beside him. There was also a second kind there, an alien civilization that Rei Minkai could not understand, but there was still a paragraph written in Chinese at the bottom. SPF. Authority Team in 1990B found traces of civilization in World No. YX887. After investigation, the civilization called itself Sky. It has been destroyed by the Abyss invasion. It's the same. Rei Minkai's heart seemed to be grabbed by something. He kept turning his head to look at the unfamiliar words hidden under the starlight, and looked at the Chinese paragraph below. It's the same. These are all the same. Suddenly, Rei Minkai, who was walking back and forth between the starlight, stopped in his tracks. He suddenly understood. Where the stars shone, the meaning of this noun. These starlights were all tombstones. They were all civilizations that were unable to resist the invasion of the Abyss and eventually watched as their civilizations were destroyed. Yes, they were all civilizations that were destroyed under the invasion of the Abyss. Rei Minkai, you should remember that I once said that trillions of civilizations were destroyed by the Abyss, right? These numbers are just the tombstones that we know. They are just the tombstones that the surviving civilizations that obtained a chance to breathe after the ultra-dimensional fortress appeared in this universe. Himimi slowly walked out of the shadow where the starlight could not reach and sighed gloomily. In fact, there are more civilizations in the fallen area of the Abyss that we don't know about, whose language and even traces of civilization have been erased. As she spoke, Himimi raised her head to look at the bright but solemn and silent starlight above her head. This is the most common situation that we, the inspectors of SPF authority, have to face. In a sense, we are the messengers of death. However, we're not burying the dead, but the civilizations that died in the invasion of the Abyss. Is this what you want me to know? Rei Minkai's face was very pale and solemn. Here, the starlight was dazzling, but there was a forest of tombstones that stretched as far as the eye could see. What Rei Minkai saw and read was just a simple sentence. However, the sentence was simple yet cruel. Yes. This is what I want you to know. Rei Minkai, in all the dimensions of the universe, you are not the only one with the idea of reviving and saving your homeland. Behind these tombstones, there are thousands of people who have the same idea as you. Himimi's voice was extremely cold, piercing into Rei Minkai's heart like 1,000-year-old ice. However, they all failed and became a part of this place. Rei Minkai, as the last human in your homeland, do you dare to take this step? Himimi pointed at the starlight above her head and asked, "This step, is it heaven? Is it hell? It's all up to you." Rei Minkai raised his head and looked at the starlight. It was as if there were unfamiliar, yet familiar figures behind the starlight looking at him. They did not know each other, but they had the same thing in common. Raise the blade of vengeance against the abyss and revive your homeland with all your strength. These were the words that sounded in Rei Mingkai's ears at this moment. It was not the voice of others, but the voice that came from the depths of Rei Mingkai's heart. This is not ambition, nor is it backbone. I'm just following my heart. Rei Mingkai was silent for a while, then raised his head and said with a sonorous voice, "You dare." Instantly, a smile appeared on Himimi's face. She stretched out her right hand and said, "Rei Mingkai, welcome to this beautiful and cruel world." Chapter 77. UFFI, you're awake. The moment Euphemia woke up, Rei Mingkai, who was waiting beside the bed, softly called out to the sleeping princess. Euphemia let out a subconscious murmur. She slowly moved her eyes, looked around the room she was in, and finally set her eyes on Rei Mingkai, who was beside her. "Is this heaven? I seem to remember that when I lost consciousness, you were also by my side, right?" The Lion Knight. Perhaps because she had just woken up from a deep sleep, Euphemia's consciousness seemed to be in a state between sobriety and confusion. She subconsciously reached out to touch the side of Rei Mingkai's face without fully understanding the situation. Unexpectedly, Rei Mingkai grabbed Euphemia's hand and gently placed it on the side of his face. He said softly, "Euphemia, I'm not going to give you a chance. This is not heaven. You're still alive." "I'm still alive?" Euphemia felt Rei Mingkai's warm face, and the light in her eyes gradually lit up. "Kai, I'm not dead." Euphemia, who finally understood, asked in surprise. UFFI, you're not dead. Now, we're in a new and unfamiliar world." Rei Mingkai nodded and confirmed the situation. "Really?" Euphemia exclaimed in a small voice. She suddenly retracted her hand that was touching Rei Mingkai's face and pulled up the quilt to cover her face. Her face suddenly became red. As the third princess of the Britannia Empire, she didn't lack the education of a lady. She was even stricter in order to avoid doing something that would damage the reputation of the royal family in public and social activities. Therefore, the intimate action made Euphemia, who reacted in a daze, blushed, and buried herself in the quilt. Seeing this, Rei Mingkai didn't have the intention to make fun of Euphemia. Instead, he stood up, took a step back, and performed a knight's salute to Euphemia in a gentlemanly manner, and solemnly and formally introduced himself. "The noble and beautiful third princess, Euphemia, leave Britannia Her Royal Highness. I'm Rei Mingkai. As you can see, I'm a knight. Now, Knight Rei Mingkai greets you." Hearing Rei Mingkai's self-introduction, Euphemia secretly raised her head from under the quilt. She glanced at Rei Mingkai, who was performing a knight salute, and found that he really didn't make fun of her confused. Her slightly panicked mind gradually calmed down. Thus, Her Royal Highness straightened her posture and nodded solemnly. "No need to be so polite. Raise your head, knight." The moment Rei Mingkai raised his head, Euphemia broke her silence and couldn't help but laugh out loud. "This feels so weird. Now, should I call you a prostitute? Or should I call you Kai?" Euphemia, who found that she didn't die, began to become active. Moreover, the exceptionally smart Euphemia also discovered a fact from Rei Mingkai's few words. Now, the world she was in didn't seem to be the original world. And the decorations in the room she was in were all things that Euphemia had never seen before. Even the Britannia Empire probably didn't have such a high level of design to decorate a ward that looked simple but was actually hiding something. "As long as you like it. UFFI. Well, then, I'll call you by your name. Kai, you've been lying to me." Euphemia nodded, but the next second, she pointed the spearhead at Rei Mingkai. Rei Mingkai sighed secretly and was hesitating whether to tell Euphemia the truth, but unexpectedly, Euphemia spoke the truth first. "It's father, right? Kai." Her eyes, which were a little shameful just now, became clear at this moment. The third princess didn't shy away from pointing out the person behind the scenes who made Rei Minkai wear a mask and alias himself as K. Rei Minkai was silent for a moment, nodded, but opened his mouth to deny some of the facts. From the results, there is no doubt that His Majesty the Emperor made me wear a mask. But looking at the overall situation, it was because of other reasons. The Academy Summary Competition. It is said that during the competition, there is also a rumor that Her Royal Highness wants to choose a Night Guardian from the winners of the competition. Euphemia's eyes were extremely clear, and there was a flash of wisdom in them that could see through everything. Rei Minkai was stunned. He didn't expect Euphemia to be able to guess the reason why he became K. If Rei Minkai didn't know the truth behind this matter, he was afraid that he would think that Her Royal Highness in front of him was the person behind the scenes. It seemed that because of Rei Minkai's shocked eyes, Euphemia suddenly became a little timid. Actually, these are all my guesses. Before the start of the Academy conference, I heard rumors from the maids that I was choosing a Night Guardian. It's just that I couldn't convey my words outside the palace. Otherwise, those things wouldn't have happened. Rei Minkai shook his head, stepped forward, gently hugged Euphemia in his arms, and said softly, "Those things have nothing to do with you. I just happened to run into the muzzle of the gun." Kai. Euphemia suddenly became a little dazed. The lion knight that she had been chasing for years finally appeared in front of her and took her into his arms. This made Euphemia unable to resist that aura. However, a voice that spoiled the mood sounded. "Ahem. I hope I'm not in your way. It's just that now Euphemia has been approved to be discharged from the hospital." After a series of knocks on the door, Himimi's voice came from outside the door. "Ah!" Euphemia exclaimed and buried herself in the quilt again, leaving Rei Minkai with a bitter smile to face Himimi alone. Half an hour later, Rei Minkai, Euphemia, and Himimi came to the leisure area in the center of Star Glory City. "Come, before you go to the residence arranged for you, why don't we celebrate with Euphemia?" Himimi brought up a suggestion that Rei Minkai couldn't refuse. Himimi made a suggestion that Rei Minkai couldn't refuse. Since Euphemia woke up, Rei Minkai had not found a suitable opportunity to confess the current situation to Euphemia. Since he decided to join S.P.F. authority and use this opportunity to find the puzzle, Euphemia's departure had become an urgent matter. "All right." Rei Minkai glanced at Himimi and seemed to think that she had a way to solve this problem. The thoughtful Euphemia looked at Rei Minkai and Himimi and also noticed something, so she went with the flow and agreed. Therefore, the three of them randomly found a quiet coffee shop nearby, sat down, and waited for the robot waiter to arrive. "UFFI, what do you think of this world?" Surprisingly, Himimi went straight to the point. Very good. I feel very good. There are things I have never seen before everywhere, and there are also strange aliens." Euphemia answered casually. "So, the atmosphere here is better than the atmosphere in your hometown?" Himimi asked again. "Without a doubt, the atmosphere here is better. Although there are a lot of strange aliens, I can see that the people living here are very happy." "Happy? That's just on the surface." Himimi glanced at Rei Minkai, leaned back, and kicked the ball back to Rei Minkai. "On the surface?" Euphemia looked at Rei Minkai with confusion. "Actually, I have already joined S.P.F. authority and am one of their reserve members." Rei Minkai confessed. "S.P.F. authority? Is it the organization you're in, Himimi?" Euphemia asked Himimi as soon as she heard that. "Yes. Due to some special reasons, Rei Minkai has now become a member of our authority. Right now, in view of Rei Minkai's participation in the number 06 experimental project, our authority also formally extends an invitation to you." Himimi straightened her back, said this with a solemn expression, and then relaxed again. She waved her hand and said, "Well, that's it. UFFI, you don't have to make a decision in a hurry. Because you're the third princess of the Britannia Empire, our authority will fully respect your choice." "Kai, did they also say this to you?" Euphemia looked back at Rei Minkai and asked. Rei Minkai shook his head, indicating that this was not the case. No, joining the authority was my own choice. I had no choice but to make this choice. Is that so? Euphemia was silent for a moment, then made a decision. Himimi, I need some time. Understood. Himimi snapped her fingers. Then, after the business is done, it's time for leisure. Under Himimi's call, Ray Minkai and Selena finally put down their business and wholeheartedly followed Himimi around Xingyao City until the sun set in the west. It's almost time. Let's go. Now, I'll take you to the residence arranged for you. The residence that Himimi mentioned was not in the City of Stars. Instead, she brought Lei Minkai and Euphemia to the central area of the City of Stars in front of a round gate that was about 100 meters tall and about 100 meters wide. The center of the gate was flashing with energy arcs. This is the world gate that connects the many worlds under the SPF Authorities Management. It's used to provide people and vehicles to travel between the many worlds. In addition, there's an even larger version, but you can only see it in space. Himimi looked at Ray Minkai and Euphemia, who were shocked by the huge, flashing light and the large number of people on the platform below, who were orderly going in and out of the world gate under the command of many staff members. Himimi smiled slightly. Ray Minkai had seen a lot of related settings in his original world, and even watched the classic American sci-fi series Stargate. But in reality, when he saw the world gate that was even larger and more spectacular than the Stargate in the real world, he almost stopped thinking. Come, follow me. After Himimi woke up Ray Minkai and Euphemia, she led them to a transport elevator specially set up for SPF Authority members. Using this transport elevator, they didn't need to follow the guide route and go through the world gate. Instead, they were able to complete the process quickly and easily. A few minutes quickly passed. With the transport elevator operating at full power, Ray Minkai and the other two only needed an instant to go through the world gate and arrive at a giant tower standing on a vast plain. A straight and smooth cement road started from the horizon and crossed the entire plain, connecting this giant tower to the outside world. This is Earth. As soon as Ray Minkai walked out of the transport elevator, he saw a very familiar planet on the map on the side. Yes and no. Although this is Earth, it's not the same Earth as your original world. Himimi shook her head, looked around, and explained. Is this a parallel world? Euphemia looked at the map in front of her. After thinking for a while, she pointed at North America, which originally belonged to the Britannia Empire, but was now marked as the United States of America. Yes, this world is a member of the parallel world among the countless dimensions of the universe. Himimi nodded. She suddenly waved her hand to the left and continued. The name of this world is Gao, the Creator. It's mainly a logistics world used to train the combat skills of our SPF Administrator trainee members. Gao, the Creator? As soon as he heard this name, Ray Minkai frowned. According to his memory, this work named Gundam Creator didn't seem to be the kind of world used for fighting and killing, right? The only thing that had anything to do with fighting was the contest between the glue guys. In other words, the glue guys created Gouda models and fought with them. Could it be that they used models to fight? Ray Minkai guessed. When Himimi heard this, she looked at Ray Minkai in surprise. You know about this world? I know a little bit. Ray Minkai hesitated, but Himimi didn't mind. After all, the SPF Authority was so big, there were all kinds of strange people. In Himimi's eyes, the title of the strangest person could only be given to the blonde masked man who had been the director of the SPF Authority for 16 years. At this moment, a tall and slender woman walked over. She wore a windbreaker, a long cotton shirt, and jeans. Her beautiful orange-red hair was tied into a small braid behind her back. She looked at Mimi and called out, Mimi, I'm here to pick you up. You are? Euphemia asked in confusion. Ray Minkai, who was standing on the side, looked at the woman's face thoughtfully. This is my sister, Marita Korwa. She's the owner of the place that was arranged for you. Himimi smiled sweetly and introduced the woman to Ray Minkai and Euphemia. Chapter 78. Gouda Creator. This was originally a peaceful world where steel pulla was popular and model battles were popular. However, after an Abyss Patrol team belonging to the SPF administration inadvertently discovered this small world, which did not have much strategic value to begin with, attracted the attention of one of the big three, the Pioneer. Only a small number of people knew that this Pioneer came to this world alone and stayed there for a whole Earth Standard Year. When he returned, he announced that this world would be under the management of the SPF administration. He used this world as a base world for the SPF administration to integrate training, logistics, rest, and other functions into one. At first, everyone thought that the Pioneer would do this only because the Earth in this world was very similar to the world where the Pioneer came from. However, until a certain quasi-B grade pilot was born in the world of the Pioneer named Gouda, everyone, including the Queen of the Castle and the super-dimensional fortress main control AI Viros, were shocked by the Pioneer's foresight. Therefore, they began a new round of examination of this world that they did not pay attention to. In the end, they were once again amazed by the Pioneer's foresight. Model Battle. This was a popular entertainment competition that arose in this world. At first glance, it was just a model battle competition that some hobbyists created with some new technology. However, upon further investigation, many people discovered the profoundness of this matter. Each round of the competition unfolded around 2 or more steel pulla models. The winner was the king, and the loser was the bandit. Whether it was the winner or the loser, the steel pulla models they used would be damaged in the battle. This was very similar to a real battle. If the pilot was shrunk and placed on the steel pulla model, or if the steel pulla was scaled up, this was simply a replica of the battle between Microsoft and Microsoft. However, instead of a real, cold, and cruel steel battle, the battle was changed to a plastic model driven by Pulaski particles. After the results of many investigations, the final result was released. Everyone agreed with the Pioneer's approach and announced that they should increase the development of this world's technology based on Pulaski particles to train the pilots belonging to the SPF Authority, the Castle, and even the seed pilots selected by Viros. Therefore, the world that Ray Minkai and Euphemia saw was created. I'll stop here. The next mission will be left to you. Sister Merida. Under the giant tower, the black-haired girl stood on the side of the road and waved at Merida, Ray Minkai, and Euphemia, who were sitting in the car. Mimi, you're not coming? Euphemia was very surprised. She originally thought that Mimi would go to their residence. Mimi shook her head and sighed regretfully. It can't be helped. I'm done with my mission here. But next, I have other missions to complete. Then, Mimi seemed to have suddenly thought of something and hurriedly looked at Merida and said, Sister Merida, Ray Minkai's equipment should be with you, right? Remember to give it to him later. I think the training target mission has already been given. Merida nodded and said with a smile, I know. Go ahead. Be careful. When Mimi heard this, she clenched her small fist and waved it. No need to be careful. The next mission doesn't require me to go to some strange world. I'm just going back to prepare for the upcoming concert. Concert? Ray Minkai looked at the black-haired girl in surprise. He couldn't connect the two unrelated professions of an inspector and a singer together. What? Do you think that being an inspector means you can't be a singer? You know, being a singer is my family's tradition. Mimi put her hands on her waist and said proudly. Then she waved her hand again and said goodbye to Ray Minkai and the other two. She turned around and returned to the giant tower, leaving this world through the world gate here. You're Ray Minkai, right? Merida's light purple pupils retracted from the giant tower and fell on Ray Minkai, who was sitting in the back seat for a while, then moved to Euphemia, who was sitting in the front passenger seat. You're Euphemia, L.I., at Britannia? Yes. Ray Minkai and Euphemia nodded in unison. Hello, I'm Marita Korwa. I'm your guide. First, Ray Minkai, you open the left door's hidden compartment. There's your terminal there. Euphemia, there's also a terminal in the hidden compartment next to you. Under Merita's instructions, Ray Minkai and Euphemia both received their terminals. However, Euphemia was confused by the terminal in her hand that was clearly beyond the technological level of the Britannia Empire. I haven't joined the authority yet. You're giving this to me just like that? Merita smiled and explained. This is only a temporary loan. SPF, Authority Reserve members will have a lot of inconveniences without this terminal. Open it and take a look. Ray Minkai and Euphemia looked at each other and opened the terminal. With a flash of light, Ray Minkai's eyes suddenly lit up. His facial outline was scanned on the holographic screen projected by the terminal, and a line of Chinese was marked below. SPF Authority Reserve member Ray Minkai, login confirmed. On the other hand, Euphemia's terminal was projecting a series of English words. You've even achieved the difference in language? Ray Minkai was slightly surprised. This is a necessary function. The membership of the authority is a bit complicated. Everyone comes from different races and civilizations. In order not to affect daily use and communication, we have installed a synchronous translation and real-time detection function on the terminal. Merita took out a terminal identical to the one in Ray Minkai's hands from under the driver's seat and said, "Now you should have the reserve funds in your terminal account. In addition, Ray Minkai, your terminal also has a training objective mission. As long as you complete this mission, you'll be an official member of the authority." Mission? Ray Minkai immediately followed Merita's instructions and opened his mailbox. Sure enough, a message marked as a new email was flashing inside. After opening it, Ray Minkai's brows suddenly furrowed. From the time Merita introduced the origin of this world to him, he had been wondering who the person who was born in this world and attracted the attention of many big shots was. He didn't expect that this person would send him an email. That's right. Although Merita didn't explain who this person was, Ray Minkai immediately guessed from the signature of the email. Miss Merita, is the name of the pilot who was born in this world called EZ? Ray Minkai's question surprised Merita a little, but she still nodded and gave the answer. Just call me Merita. You guessed right. When many people doubted the decision of the pioneers, the pilot who came out of nowhere was called EZ. Now, he should be in the Third Fleet as the captain of MS. Ray Minkai heard this and turned the projection screen on the terminal to Merita. When Merita saw it, the surprise on her face could no longer be hidden. Your training target mission was sent directly to you by EZ. It seems that you have received a lot of attention. Probably. Ray Minkai was obviously a little unconfident. He didn't know if Merita knew the meaning of the name EZ, but he knew, and he knew what this sudden training target mission meant. I am EZ, the preparatory team member who received this letter. Listen up. You only have one mission. That is to fight and defeat a kid named Makoto Ito in the Steel Pullum Model World Competition. A few simple sentences and the signature marked as EZ made Ray Minkai smile bitterly in his heart. This unreliable father found an opponent for his son, and he even found him. Minkai, look at your account. At this moment, Euphemia let out a cry of surprise. Ray Minkai didn't know why, but he still did as he was told. In the end, he was stunned by the series of zeros on the screen. Ray Minkai was almost dazzled by the number of zeros that seemed to be 9 digits. The SPF Authority couldn't be this rich, right? How could a mere preparatory team member give out such an astronomical sum of money? You didn't see wrong. This is one of the benefits of the SPF Authority. Everyone will receive a starting fund. After the training mission, you can use the money to buy some parts from the equipment area in Xingyao City to modify your body. You can also purchase property in this world. You are free to use the money however you want. Merita seemed to be used to this as she explained calmly. Euphemia's lips moved as if she wanted to refuse, but Ray Minkai stopped her. Take it first. UFFI. Next, you can use mine first. Euphemia lowered her head and looked at Ray Minkai's right hand, which was on the back of her hand, and nodded silently. When Merida saw that the two had no objections, she started the car and drove back to the city in the distance along the only road that led to the outside world. Along the way, it didn't talk much. Merida was focused on driving. Euphemia was observing the surrounding scenery, and Ray Minkai was planning his next move. Without a doubt, after he received the training target mission, information about the father and son pair, Izi and Makoto Ito, immediately appeared in his mind. Images of Makoto Ito's performance in the steel polo world flashed across his mind. Ray Minkai's memory of the creator also became clearer, but also became more serious. Do you want to do something? Ray Minkai's gaze slowly moved up. Through the rearview mirror in front of him, he looked at Merida, who was focused on driving the car, and immediately rejected the idea. Forget it. I'm also a member of the Glue Guys. Doing something in the Steel Polo World competition is simply an insult to the Steel Polo. In Ray Minkai's calculations, the speeding car, driven by Merida, soon returned to the metropolis, left the highway, and turned into an elegant, chic, and quiet community. We're here. Ray Minkai, Euphemia, get out of the car. After Merida drove the car into the underground garage of a luxurious villa with an area of at least 800 square meters, she said while unfastening her seatbelt. When Ray Minkai and Euphemia followed Merida out of the underground garage, a fat man wearing an apron with gray sideburns and beard, who looked to be at least 60 years old, was guarding the door, waiting for Merida, Ray Minkai, and Euphemia. Dad, I'm back. This is Ray Minkai, Euphemia, Li Britannia. Then, Merida turned around and introduced the fat man guarding the door to Ray Minkai and Euphemia. This is my father, Sparoya Sinman. He is also one of the guides in charge of receiving the administrator's potential teammates. Sparoya Sinman. Ray Minkai pondered for a moment and asked with some uncertainty, Are you Golanshua's captain, Sparoya Sinman? The man froze for a moment and then laughed. I didn't expect that after so many years, there would still be someone who recognized me as Golanshua's captain. Merida, it seems that our teammate in charge this time is a very interesting person. Maybe, Dad. Merida nodded slightly, and then called Ray Minkai and Euphemia into the house. Come in. It's getting late. Let's eat first. At the dinner table, Ray Minkai never thought that in the original work, Captain Sinman, who didn't show any cooking skills, could make 10 dishes and 1 soup by herself. Not to mention Ray Minkai, even the carefree Euphemia, the third princess of the empire, couldn't stop. While trying to maintain the etiquette of a princess, she couldn't help but put food into her bowl. In the end, Ray Minkai considerately put her favorite dishes in her bowl, so she could maintain the etiquette of the third princess of the empire. Captain, I didn't expect your cooking skills to be so good. Ray Minkai handed a tissue to Euphemia and looked at Merida, who also ate a lot of food and was wiping her mouth in an orderly manner and sincerely praised. On the other hand, Hinman smiled and gently looked at Merida. He slowly said, It's just that I've been cooking for a long time. It's not worthy of your praise. Fortunately, Merida and the others didn't dislike my cooking because of this. How could that be? We never waste Dad's cooking. Merida blushed and subconsciously retorted. Is that so? I know. Simon looked up at the clock and said, Merida, you've worked hard today. Why don't you take this young lady to take a bath? Let me and Ray Minkai clean up here. Okay, Dad. Merida nodded, and Euphemia also left with Merida under Ray Minkai's signal. After the two girls disappeared behind the door, Simon stood up and said apologetically, Sorry, I shouldn't have let the guests clean up. No, it's just a small matter. It's nothing. Ray Minkai shook his head and turned to look at the group photo hanging on the wall of the living room. Just right. I also have some things to ask you. Simon noticed Ray Minkai's gaze, but he didn't refuse. Then, let's wash the dishes together and talk. I believe that we'll have a good chat. On the wall, in that large group photo, Sinman, who was wearing a football uniform and was equally fat, but looked much younger, was surrounded by a group of girls wearing the same football uniform, with the same hair color and exactly the same face. They, at that moment, were all smiling so brightly and happily. Chapter 79. This was a story that Ray Minkai was both familiar and unfamiliar with. The source of familiarity came from the world that Ray Minkai was familiar with gout disease. The unfamiliar feeling came from the historical trajectory of the protagonists in the story that Ray Minkai didn't know about. It was a story that happened after the end of the Greps War. At the end of the Greps War, the enemy from another world that suddenly appeared in the Earth's circle, the Abyss, infected most of the Titans' troops with the Abyss. In order to protect themselves and the Earth, the human army, led by the pioneers, erupted with power beyond their own and finally saved the world. In this unprecedented victory, the Earth Federation government understood that in this universe, there was more than just a tiny civilization like humans. In the vast and boundless dark universe, endless dangers lurked in the darkness, waiting for the opportunity to devour humans. Therefore, in this crisis, the corrupt and incompetent Earth Federation government, under the joint efforts of the pioneers and the new Marshal, Rabier, finally completed self-reform and began the first step into the universe. Of course, in this unprecedented collective consciousness, there were still different voices. And these voices came from the remnants of the Guion faction that were scattered across the Earth after a year of war due to the defeat of the Guion faction. At that time, as the captain of the disguised armed transport ship, Jelangsu, Sparoya Simon was also one of them. However, due to the unprecedented unity of the consciousness of the Earth sphere, due to the abyssal disaster that occurred during the Greps War, the remnants of Guion's faction that were scattered all over the Earth sphere ultimately chose to surrender under the promise of the Forerunners and Admiral Rabier. They left the Earth's circle and began their escape journey to the more distant Mars and even Jupiter. Galanchua was also a part of this large group of people who were fleeing. Fortunately, perhaps because of the fame of the Jelangsu, the Mars Independent Guion Army took the initiative to extend an olive branch to the Jelangsu and invited it to join the ranks of the Mars Independent Guion Army. This was undoubtedly the best choice for the Jelangsu, that was forced to leave the Earth's circle and was confused about the future. Hinman chose to agree to Kieran's request since the number of his men was reduced. After joining the Mars Independent Guion Army, an urgent mission followed. The Jelangsu was required to go to Jupiter at full speed and bring back a cargo that belonged to the Mars Independent Guion Army. Simon did not suspect anything and once again set off with the Jelangsu. However, not long after the Jelangsu set off, the bad news that Mars surrendered to Earth came. A few days ago, the Mars Independent Guion Army, who was still gathering forces and preparing to fight with the Earth Federation, was destroyed by an unknown fleet appeared later. In a panic, the remnants of John's party, including Galanchua, chose to flee again. This time, it was the even more distant Jupiter. The Simon didn't know what the future would be. She only had the star's fate. The Earth wood's fates the star woods. Perhaps it was fate. The turning point was when the grandish snow arrived at Jupiter. Europa, in the solar system, it was the only satellite closest to Earth with a large amount of liquid water. It was one of Jupiter's satellites, and it was also the main source of water that the colonial satellites in the Jupiter circle could collect nearby. However, near this planet that was extremely important to the colonial satellites in the Jupiter circle, there was a fierce battle that was not too large in scale, but it did affect Europa. In the dim light of the sun, two huge, strangely shaped airframes with two huge engines behind them flew over the North Pole of Europa and quickly lowered their altitude to get as close to the ice as possible in the North Pole of Europa. Boom! Boom! As they flew close to the ice, beams of light poured down from the sky behind them and constantly bombarded the two strangely shaped bodies. At the same time, 24 flashes of light flashed in the ice of Europa. Relying on the uneven ice layer and the cover of the particularly ferocious icicle forest, they quickly surrounded the two figures that relied on the complex terrain to dodge the attacks from all directions. Boom! Boom! The violent energy explosion blasted countless ice shards away, and then, under the weak gravity of Europa, they slowly fell into the bumpy ice layer. Suddenly, 24 ghostly green beams of light suddenly blasted out from the ice layer in front of them, cutting a large piece of ice into countless pieces. Immediately afterward, there were two more violent explosions. This was the fatal move launched by the tiny figure that had previously relied on the cover of the ice layer to sneak all the way to the target's side in an instant. The strange body that was completely dismembered by the 24 ghostly green beams of light was instantly engulfed by the violent explosion. Then, amidst the flying ice shards, it slowly fell into the gap in the ice layer that was blasted open. It was forever silent in the depths of Europa's ice layer that made many assumptions in science and technology on Earth. Target disappeared. Mission completed. As the 24 flashes of light rose from the ice layer, a body with 4 large balanced propulsion wings and dark green paint suspended over the gradually closing gap in the ice layer. And in the cockpit of this body, while a petite figure slowly breathed a sigh of relief, she also took off the helmet that made it difficult for her to breathe. She put the helmet beside her and let it float beside her under the microgravity. Then, she raised her hand and pressed several buttons to begin to confirm the equipment that returned to the body. Floating cannon. After some inspection, the petite figure did not seem very satisfied. Her tiny eyebrows were deeply furrowed, and a trace of solemnity appeared on her small face. Sure enough, temporary equipment is not suitable for Kshatriya. Under the influence of Jupiter's gravity, the consumption rate of the GN particle tank exceeded expectations. Judging from the current fuel and GN particle storage capacity of Kshatriya, Kshatriya can't go to the next mission point. Now send an emergency signal for help. Pilot Marita Kurwa. After the petite figure operated for a while, she leaned against the cockpit and let out a long sigh of relief. She was Marita Kurwa. She, who was supposed to stay in the Earth circle and accept the reformation mission, appeared in the distant Jupiter circle at this moment for a special mission. Although under the powerful cooperation of the pioneers and General Raber, the politics, military, and economy of the Earth circle began to move toward the development of deep space and space colonization, the accumulated problems of the Earth Federation over the 80 years of establishment were not so easy to eliminate. Even if the terrifying fleet under the command of the pioneers had appeared in this universe from the Universe Gate in the Earth Circle during the Greps War, the pioneers would still be able to survive. The corrupt elements hidden in the Earth Federation still existed and continued to exist. In order to get rid of these corrupt elements as soon as possible, the pioneers planned to infiltrate the Jupiter Circle with a small force after taking control of Mars. After achieving a certain degree of success, they would make the final decision and completely solve the problem of human space colonization in the entire solar system. Therefore, Marita Kurwa volunteered to be a member of the first infiltration team. In order to adapt to the gravitational environment of Jupiter, her Kshatriya had also undergone some modifications, but the actual consumption was much more serious than the technical staff estimated. In desperation, Marita could only send out a distress signal after the mission was completed and stay in place to wait for reinforcements. Just like that, 10 hours passed. After waiting for a long time, Marita, who could not wait for the arrival of reinforcements, was about to pilot the Kshatriya, which had little fuel and GN particle tanks left, away from Europa. When she tried her best to rely on the next mission point to request for reinforcements, a container ship that looked like a civilian spaceship appeared in the sky above Europa. That is. As soon as Marita discovered the container ship, she piloted the Kshatriya and hid in a rift valley not far away. She quietly watched the container ship slowly land on the ice not far away. Is that a collection ship? Marita remembered the information about Europa very clearly. If it weren't for the two strange mechs being chased by the Kshatriya running to Europa, Marita would never have come here. After all, as an important source of water for the colonial satellites belonging to the Jupiter Empire, Europa had always received a lot of attention. If it weren't for Marita's other teammates constantly covering for her. The Kshatriya would have been quickly discovered when the battle broke out on Europa. The two strange mechs would not have been suppressed by the Kshatriya and could not get reinforcements. Thinking of this, Merida also seemed to have realized the reason why the reinforcements had not arrived yet. If I'm really delayed, then I can only rely on myself to go to the next mission point. Merida's gaze fell on the container ship that had stopped on the ice and had already begun the collection operation. Captain, the drilling machine is ready. In the communication channel, the voice of the helmsman, Frasquall, came. Simon looked up at the snow-white world in front of her, which was covered by the darkness of nothingness, and nodded. Let's get started. Understood, Squall replied. He quickly operated the drilling machine to drill into the ice layer. But Squall did not seem to intend to concentrate on the homework in his hands. Instead, while working, he asked his immediate superior, Sinman, about her future plans. Captain, are we really going to stay here on Jupiter? Sinman looked at the drilling machine that was slowly turning and was silent for a while. That's it for the time being. We left in too much of a hurry. We don't know what happened to Earth and Mars. Now, the Jupiter Empire has given us good treatment. Let's stay for a while and see what happens. As she spoke, Simmons seemed to have noticed something, and she suddenly turned to look at the Granzi behind her. In that instant, Simmons' gaze passed through the glass cover of the protective suit and fell on the huge mech suspended above the Granzi. MS. The next moment, a young but unusually cold voice sounded. This is a pilot belonging to the First Fleet of the New Earth Federation, Marita Korwa. Attention to the container ship ahead. Now, I am officially requisitioning your ship according to the relevant regulations of the New Earth Federation's emergency handling regulations. Please do your best to assist us in completing the mission. Otherwise, your ship will be judged as a traitor of the Jupiter Empire and dealt with according to the relevant regulations. Chapter 80. Under the cooperation of Ray Mingkai and Sinmin, the bowls and chopsticks were quickly taken care of. When the brewed tea was placed in front of Ray Mingkai by Sinmin, Ray Mingkai thanked her and reached out to take the tea while asking, Captain, so this is the first time you and Miss Merida met? Our first meeting took place under such a tense atmosphere. Sinmin nodded, took a sip of the tea, looked at the steam rising from the teacup, smiled bitterly, and continued to recall the situation at that time. Indeed. However, what I didn't expect was that the pilot in front of me turned out to be a little girl who looked only 12 or 13 years old. If my daughter was still alive, I'm afraid she would be the same age as her. Sinmin's gaze gradually got lost in the steam on the teacup, and she couldn't help but repeat the situation at that time. I'm Marita Korwa, a special commissioner of the new Federation. Now, according to the relevant regulations of the new Federation's emergency handling regulations, your ship is required to cooperate with us. Your ship has been requisitioned by us. Her young and tender face was filled with seriousness. Around her petite body, there were no less than 6 huge barrel-shaped heads. 4 long and slender metal legs supported the huge heads and allowed them to move. Sinmin and the others standing at the entrance of Naku didn't look down on the little girl in front of them because of her young appearance. Just a moment ago, there were even more robots than the 6 strange robots surrounding the little girl. The instant the large MS entered Galantua's garage, they rushed out from the small pods at the waist of the large MS, called Kshatriya. Before Sinmin and the others could react, they quickly spread out through the passage connected to Naku. After that, it was Merida's declaration of requisition. Captain, is this what the new Federation does? Squall stood cautiously behind Sinmin and whispered. Sinmin's expression did not change. She just took a step forward and raised her right hand, trying to negotiate with Merida. Hello, new Federation Commissioner. I am the captain of the Glen Snow, Spaloya Sinmin. May I ask why you want to requisition our civilian cargo ship? Merida pondered for a moment. After organizing her thoughts, she said, the new Federation has discovered that the colonial satellites in Jupiter's orbit are plotting something against the new Federation of Earth. Furthermore, the remnants of the Titans who retreated from the Greps War have also brought some dangerous experimental subjects here. Therefore, regardless of whether it is to protect the new Federation or to deal with a conspiracy, the new Federation sent you children over. Squall frowned deeply, his eyes full of disdain. Merita's gaze turned cold, but she did not make any trouble. She knew that her current childish appearance would cause most people to have some unnecessary misunderstandings. Therefore, she placed her gaze on the captain who truly had the right to speak, Simon. Squall, shut up. Simon sensed Merita's intention. After telling her subordinates to shut up, she nodded and admitted everything that Merita said. Since it is the new Federation's request, then we have no need to refuse. But, in a dangerous situation, how will the Glintsnow be dealt with? If this civilian cargo ship is exposed, then I will cover your retreat until you completely escape from danger. This is the new Federation's emergency conditions to ensure the safety of the requisitioned ship, Merita said magnanimously. Looking at the magnanimity and seriousness on that childish face, Simon's heart couldn't help but go into a trance. She seemed to have similar memories in the past. Mary, Captain. Squall quietly tugged at Raheem Niman. Simon shook her head slightly, then looked up at Merita again. If what you said is true, then the Glintsnow will fully cooperate with your mission. After receiving Simon's approval, Merita also slowly let out a sigh of relief. She waved her hand, and 4 of the 6 autonomous robots around her turned around. With the bouncing ability of their metallic legs, they quickly returned to the pod that Kshatriya was carrying. The remaining 2 autonomous robots followed Merita around, protecting her. Sorry. This is to ensure that both sides can maintain a tacit understanding under possible circumstances. After the mission is completed, I will compensate for this. Captain Simon, please rest assured. With regards to Merita's promise, Simon didn't take it to heart. Because of Merita's appearance, Shimon was reminded of his old memories, so he didn't want to talk too much. After a while, under Simon's announcement, everyone on the Glintsnow knew about the current situation of the Glintsnow, as well as the identity of those barrel-headed robots guarding the various key passages. Commissioner, the coordinates you are about to head to are not peaceful. Are you sure you want to go there? Simon looked at the coordinates provided by Merita and couldn't help but confirm it again. Merita nodded and asked back, "These coordinates are the next mission target of our special commissioner. If it were peaceful, would our special commissioner still need to come all the way here?" Hinman was taken aback, but he couldn't find the words to refute. Indeed, if the coordinates were peaceful, these special commissioners who suddenly appeared in the Jupiter Circle wouldn't have come here. Galanchua took off. She didn't speak along the way. Whether it was Merita or Simon's side, led by Galanchua, they all maintained a sense of alienation. Both sides didn't seem to want to be entangled with each other. Merita was protecting Galanchua, but Simon's side didn't know why. Perhaps it was to protect themselves, or perhaps it was because of the aggressive actions of the autonomous robots that made them feel hostile. Merita didn't care about this. After all, after she made the decision to use Galanchua, all of this was bound to happen. Time passed. In this silence, Galanchua quickly arrived at the coordinates requested by Merita. However, the moment Galanchua entered the region, an accident happened. Dazzling light rays erupted from the depths of the dark universe and attacked Galanchua. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Captain! The helmsman, Squall, tried his best to control Galanchua's movement as he shouted. Commissioner! Simon's face turned serious. Just call me Merita. Merita corrected Simon's way of addressing her, then continued. Turn on the broadcast. Simon pressed a button, and the broadcast was turned on. Identification ID, ENE0013. Stop the attack immediately. Merita repeated this sentence several times, but she didn't get any response, so she became serious. She looked at Simon and said, Galanchua's mission ends here. I'll cover your retreat from this region. Leave the rest to me. After that, Merita didn't give Simon any time to react and directly jumped into the passage to Naku, and the 2 autonomous robots behind her followed closely. Then, the bridge quieted down. Squall, who was shouting just now, suddenly shut his mouth and quietly observed Simmons' expression as if he was looking for something. "What are you looking at? Hurry up and turn around. Let go launch you escape from this region. Also, when Commissioner Merida is ready, release her body to provide cover for us," Simmons ordered calmly. "Roger." Galantua turned around, but the attack didn't stop. Instead, it became more and more intense. From the thick beams that constantly swept past Galantua's left and right, it was clear that the enemies hiding in the darkness were getting closer and closer. They were so close that Galantua's radar could clearly identify their figures. "Captain, Target 7, MS-6, Warship 1. Simmons shook her head slightly, raised her hand, and firmly waved forward. "Full speed retreat. Here, leave it to the Commissioner." "Pa!" Ray Minkai put the still empty teacup on the table and looked at Simmons suspiciously. He didn't feel like there was anything wrong with him interrupting Simmons' memories. "Captain, let me guess what your choice was at that time." Shimon was stunned for a moment and then nodded. "Okay, I'm guessing that after you let Galantua walk for a while, you couldn't help but turn back and try to rescue Merida from the enemy's encirclement." Raymond Kai's guess made Simon chuckle. After she picked up the teacup and drank the last sip of tea, she looked at Ray Minkai with a half smile and said, "Your guess is a bit accurate, but you only guessed the first half right. You didn't guess the second half." "There's a second half?" "Yes." Even after so many years, Simmons still felt like she was a bit stupid back then, but she didn't regret it at all. "Indeed, after Galantua retreated for a while, I really couldn't restrain that strong desire. That desire to not let the 12 or 13-year-old Merida sacrifice herself for us to escape finally made me make the decision to let Galantua turn back and once again enter that sector that was already in the middle of a fierce battle." Speaking to hear, Sinman put down the teacup, spread out her hands, and looked at Ray Minkai, whose face was full of expectation. She said lightly, "The moment Galantua entered that sector, several hundred beams of light that were even more dazzling than the enemies shot out from behind Galantua without any warning, bringing with them a heaven-shaking aura that completely drowned out the enemies that were fighting with Kshatriya. The battle ended here, just like that." Ray Minkai clearly still hadn't reacted. This was equivalent to reading some indescribable manga, and just as you were about to do something, a sentence suddenly popped up that was enough to make your life gloomy. "Yes, just like that." Simmons seemed to be very happy after seeing Ray Minkai's huge disappointment. "Afterwards, I learned that Marita Kurwa, this little girl that appeared in front of Galantua, was not an ordinary person. Chapter 81. Unusual? Ray Minkai asked, but Simmons shook her head and didn't have any intention to answer. After he stretched, he glanced at the time. "Regardless of whether Merida is extraordinary or not, she's just my adopted daughter now. Okay, Ray Minkai, go take a shower and get ready to rest. Tomorrow is the first day of your mission. You have to go out with me." Ray Minkai saw that Simmons had no intention to continue the conversation, nodded, and turned to leave the living room. The night was silent. The next day, Ray Minkai got up and washed up. As soon as he came to the living room, he found Merida and Euphemia, who had already changed their clothes, standing at the door, seemingly wanting to go out. "Kai, good morning. Today, I want to walk around here with Miss Merida." Euphemia saw Ray Minkai and went to greet him. "Okay." Ray Minkai nodded and looked at Merida. "Miss Merida, please take care of Euphemia. Call me Merida. Leave UFFI to me. I wish you a successful completion of today's mission." Half an hour later, Ray Minkai, who had a full meal, followed Simon out of the villa and walked along the road to the nearby neighborhood. "Captain, where are we going?" Ray Minkai glanced at the densely packed streets in the distance and asked Simon. "Call me Simon. On the other hand, can I call you Kai? This way it's easier to say. You should be from the Celestial Empire, right? Your name is always difficult to remember." Simon corrected Ray Minkai's name and didn't forget to ridicule Ray Minkai's name. "Maybe it's a pronunciation problem?" Ray Minkai smiled helplessly. Then, Simon, Are we going to buy steel pulla? Sinman nodded and reached out to take something from the bag hanging on her body and handed it to Ray Minkai. Ray Minkai took a look and found that it was steel pulla, and the model was a very classic Zagu II. You're right. Your first task is to choose your favorite steel pulla model and make it on your own. This is the first step to completing your training objective, and also the most crucial step. Ray Minkai listened to Sinman's words while holding the steel pulla Zagu eye in his hand. Sinman, do you have anything to recommend? Me? Hinman pointed at himself and immediately laughed out loud. Forget about me. How about you take a closer look at the steel pulla in your hand? Ray Minkai heard and raised the Zagu eye in his hand to take a look. He found that it was simply too horrible to look at. Let's not talk about other things first, just those unrepaired nozzles were like thorns in the eyes, deeply stabbing Ray Minkai, this compulsive person. This was made by you, Sinman? Ray Minkai's mouth twitched and asked somewhat uncertainly. It was made by me. After all, I'm old. It's more strenuous to pick up these small things. Sinman scratched her beard and said somewhat embarrassedly. If it was the Ray Minkai of the past, he would probably immediately throw away the steel pulla in his hand that looked too horrible to look at. But he still endured this impulse and returned it to Sinman. Sinman took it and sighed. After reluctantly putting the Zagu eye back into the bag, she raised her hand and pointed at the street not far away. Originally, as a guide, I should be teaching you how to make the steel pulla model that you like. But now you can also see that my level is only limited to the level of a rookie. Therefore, I have to find you a good steel pulla model store. A good steel pulla model store? When Sinman mentioned this sentence, a picture immediately appeared in Ray Minkai's mind. A steel pulla model store named Iori Model that opened in a street that was completely unrelated to the downtown area. It can't be that coincidental, right? In fact, it really was that coincidental. Under the guidance of Sinman, Ray Minkai walked into a street that was not too crowded. At the same time, he also saw the store with the sign Iori Model. It really is that coincidental. Ray Minkai's eyelids twitched. He also realized that this was probably Sinman's track. Come on, how about you say hello to your opponent? Although I said that, among the people I know, only that little guy has good enough skills to teach you how to make steel pulla. However, when Sinman and Ray Minkai walked into the model store, they were surprised to find that there seemed to be a confrontation inside. In front of the display case, a pair of customers who looked like father and son were looking at a young man with short blue hair, wearing an apron, and a young man with a mushroom head who looked arrogant and was provoking him with a contemptuous gaze. Oh, Gene Sasaki? Why is it you again? Sinman saw the reason for the confrontation at a glance. Ray Minkai also recognized the mushroom head who was confronting the boy with short blue hair, wearing an apron under Sinman's reminder. Gene Sasaki. He is good at using strong people and has always been obsessed with the high-quality models made by Makoto Ito. He will not let go of any opportunity to belittle Makoto Ito, thus shattering Makoto Ito's insistence and forcing Makoto Ito to become his exclusive model maker. What a coincidence! After Ray Minkai secretly ridiculed, he decided to wait and see what would happen. Uncle Sinman, for some reason, when he heard Sinman's voice, Gene Sasaki, who was still arrogantly looking down on Makoto Ito, suddenly panicked. It was as if in his eyes, Sinman was a terrifying demon that crawled out of hell. Hey, boy, harassing Makoto Ito all day long. Don't you see that you are delaying his business? Sinman stepped forward, reached out, and pressed Gene Sasaki's head, and said in a deep voice, "It is good for a man to have ambition, but excessive self-confidence is arrogance, and ambition is also the same." I was just discussing the steel pulla model with Makoto Ito. Yes. Uncle Sinman, please don't misunderstand. We were just discussing the steel pulla model. Makoto Ito saw that there were still guests, so he did not want to let Sinman punish Gene Sasaki further, and hurriedly tried to dissuade him. Sinman did not care. It was just that it was better to come at the right time. Gene Sasaki in front of him might be a good touchstone for Ray Minkai. Kai, Are you interested? Treat it as a lesson for this brat who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Hinman turned to look at Lei Mingkai. Rei Mingkai's gaze swept across the various models of steel pulla on the display case, and then it fell on the World Tournament runner-up trophy, and then on Jin Sasaki, who was being held down by Sinman, and nodded. Okay, just treat it as the first round of practice. What? Practice? Who do you think I am? I am a powerful steel pulla fighter. Although my manufacturing skills are not as good as Makoto Ito's, my steel pulla is the best. Jin Sasaki finally understood the intentions of Sinman and Rei Mingkai. Just like what he did to Makoto Ito, Sinman also did the same. I will let you have a taste of being defeated by me. Haha, boy, your ambition is big enough. But don't underestimate the enemy. Kai is not something you kids can compare to. Sinman let go of Jin Sasaki and suggested to Rei Mingkai, Kai, you choose one here. I will pay. However, Rei Mingkai shook his head. No, the steel pulla here is not suitable for me. Sinman, give me your Zaguai. What? Sinman was shocked. She was very clear about her technical level. According to Zaguai's manufacturing level, it was already very good to be able to move it in Palevsky particles. Not to mention to use it in a battle. Zaguai it is. After all, he is just a kid. I can't bully him. According to your Zaguai, it is enough. Seeing that Rei Mingkai had made up his mind, Sinman did not say anything. Chung, I want to borrow your steel pulla battle system. Huh? Okay. Makoto Ito, who was dumbfounded the whole time, and the father and son customers who were watching the whole time, finally stood outside the battle room with Sinman, who was holding her neck and watching the battle through the glass, watching the two people who were preparing for the battle. Palevsky particles begin. Site setting, battlefield number 3, forest. The battlefield built by the battle system was built in just a few seconds. The next step was to put in the steel pulla model. Haha, what kind of steel pulla is that? Did you find it in the garbage? That nozzle, that gap, that joint, what kind of manufacturing technology is that? Across the battle room, when Jin Sasaki saw Rei Mingkai take out the Zagu I made by Sinman, he was immediately amused by the problems on Zagu I. Haha, I think I don't even need to use my strong men to attack. As soon as I enter the battlefield, this garbage Zagu I will immediately be destroyed. Faced with Jin Sasaki's ridicule, Rei Mingkai calmly put the Zagu I in the attacking position and looked up at Jin Sasaki. Ready? Let's start. Seeing that Rei Mingkai still insisted on using the garbage Zagu I, Jin Sasaki was furious and glared at Rei Mingkai. Unexpectedly, when the two people's eyes met, Rei Minkai's eyes suddenly burst out a strong fighting spirit, forcing Jin Sasaki's gaze back and almost making him retreat in fear. What? How can this be? Jin Sasaki's legs trembled uncontrollably. This was a feeling that he had never experienced before. It was as if the Rei Mingkai standing in front of him was not a human, but a wild beast waiting for an opportunity to devour its prey. What? I'm ready. What about you? Jin Sasaki. Rei Minkai's eyes were cold. Jin Sasaki gritted his teeth and mustered all his strength to place his beloved steel pulla model, Strongman, in the attacking position and shouted, Jin Sasaki, Strongman attack. Rei Mingkai, Zagu I attack. Chapter 82. Cherry blossoms were in full bloom, and petals were flying. In this forest full of the smell of spring, a robot was walking in it. Rei Mingkai put his hands on the control ball of the steel pulla battle system and looked at the scene in front of him with a dignified expression. Zaguai's control was more difficult than Rei Mingkai imagined. Even if he didn't see the sluggishness and reaction delay from the control ball, Rei Mingkai could see from Zaguai's trembling movements that this body was walking on a tightrope between destruction and survival. Ha ha ha! Look, your steel pulla is about to fall apart. Surrender now. Strongman didn't appear, but Sasaki Jin's voice reached Rei Minkai's ears. Rei Minkai's eyes moved, and the trembling Zagu too, who seemed as if it would fall apart in the next moment, immediately stopped. It stood there quietly, motionless, and allowed the petals that filled the sky to brush past its body and fly into the sky. When he saw Zagu, I stopped moving. Sasaki Jin was stunned and puzzled at first, but soon the anger in his heart burned more intensely. He didn't know that from the moment Ray Minkai and Simmons stepped into this model store, they had worked together to put a trap on his head and gradually tightened, making him be led by Ray Minkai. Now, seeing that Zagu too, which was about to fall apart, had stopped, Sasaki, who was planning to stall for time while preventing it from falling apart, shouted angrily. Anger rushed to his heart, and he threw away all his doubts. He controlled the strong man to leap up, and with the petals dancing in the air, he launched an attack on Zagu too. The beam sword in strong man's hand drew an arc in the air, carrying petals that were burned by hot particles, and slashed down at Zagu, who was standing in place. Got it. Sasaki Jin saw that Zagu was trying to avoid the attack, but could only stand in place and make meaningless trembling, and his eyes lit up. Hey, as expected of a pile of trash, you actually dared to challenge my strongman. But before Sasaki Jin could finish his arrogant declaration, strongman's beam sword sliced through Zagu 2's body without any hindrance. What? It didn't hit? Boom! In the midst of Sasaki Jin's exclamation, the strongman was suddenly sent flying by a powerful force from below. He only stopped rolling after crashing into several large trees. In the billowing smoke, Sasaki Jin saw Zagu, who was supposed to be cut down by strongman, slowly standing up. In Sasaki's eyes, the gleaming needle-shaped pauldrons were so dazzling. He had finally seen through it. Just now, why did the strong man suddenly fly out and crash into several large trees? It turned out that it was because Zagu dodged strongman's beam sword attack, squatted down, and launched a strong impact with the strongman's shoulder. How is this possible? With Zagu's condition, how is it possible for him to make such an attack? It should have fallen apart with just a little bit of force. Sasaki Jin could not believe his eyes. The gaps in the hands and feet were not closed. The holes left on the model were so glaring, and the joints were not properly treated. Every move was so funny. It was such a broken steel per model that could be considered as a piece of junk that could actually send his masterpiece flying. And it was not even broken apart yet. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Sasaki Jin shouted loudly. Strongman held the control ball with both hands and stood up again in the billowing smoke, raising his shield and sword. Boom! Strongman's thrusters roared. Strongman, who was charging with all his strength, raised a gust of wind, and the billowing smoke between Strongman and Zagu was swept away. Die! It's just a pile of junk. Sasaki Jin's eyes flashed coldly, and the beam sword in Strongman's hand roared. In the next moment, Zagu's chest was pierced through by the beam sword. In the blink of an eye, Strongman's beam sword pierced through. Success. No, Strongman's beam sword did not pierce through Zagu's chest. Instead, Zagu's left arm caught Strongman's wrist. How is this possible? Got you, kid, Ray Minkai said indifferently, and pressed down with his right hand. Zagu immediately raised his right fist and smashed toward Strongman's head. Don't even think about it. Sasaki Jin roared, and Strongman raised a shield on his left arm to block Zagu's iron fist. Following that, Sasaki Jin steeled his heart and controlled Strongman to place the shield between Strongman and Zagu. Catch as long as you want. Go to hell. Sasaki Jin's voice was cold, and with a press of his right hand, the hidden bomb in the shield was immediately activated. In the next second, there was a huge explosion. A huge explosion that was enough to engulf Zagu, and Strongman. In an instant, Ray Minkai noticed Sasaki Jin's actions and immediately reacted. Zagu's left arm loosened, and at the same time, he lifted his leg and kicked Strongman's shield. Borrowing the force, he quickly jumped back. Boom! As soon as Zagu's right foot left Strongman's shield, a huge explosion occurred. Zaguai's right foot was blown away on the spot. Kai's hands moved, and with Zaguai's thrusters, he stabilized the body and landed safely on the ground. On the other hand, Strongman, who was kicked by Zaguai at the critical moment, was not in a good state. It could even be said that it was a disaster. The explosion of the bomb not only shattered Strongman's hands on the spot, but also its body, which was beyond recognition, exposed its internal structure. The sharp head was also covered in cracks from the violent explosion, and the huge camera dimmed and lit up as if it had reached its limit. Before the smoke of the explosion dissipated, Zaguai, whose thrusters were at full power, broke through the billowing black smoke surrounding Strongman's broken body. Taking advantage of the fact that Sasaki Jin had not recovered from the shock, Zaguai pressed on Strongman's body and raised the heat axe that he had not used from the beginning to the end, aiming at Strongman's head. Boy, the outcome has been decided. Kai's cold voice made Sasaki Jin, who was still in a state of confusion, wake up from his stupor. Ow, how is this possible? A pile of trash can beat my Strongman. Impossible. Sasaki Jin looked at the defeat displayed on the battle system in disbelief. He looked at Strongman, who had lost all power and was pressed under Zaguai's heat axe. Nothing is impossible. Boy, you lost. But as soon as the battle ended, the moment the Palovsky particles dissipated, Zaguai's right arm suddenly trembled, and with a poof, it fell on Strongman's body. Then, the parts on Zaguai's body seemed to respond to the falling right arm, scrambling to fall off Zaguai's body and scattered around Strongman in a mess. This change made Sasaki Jin feel even more uncomfortable. Just as he said before the battle, Zaguai would definitely fall apart. However, he was unable to persevere until the moment Zagu 2 fell apart. In the end, he could only suffer a crushing defeat under this pile of broken junk. No! Wah! After a scream of unwillingness, it was followed by a cry that no one had expected. Mecha stared blankly at the door that was still shaking uncontrollably after being smashed open by Sasaki Jin. He sighed in a resigned manner and said, "Isn't this too much? After all, he's still a child." "Ha ha! You didn't think so just now. Kai, before, didn't you cooperate very tacitly with this boy? Why are you regretting it now?" Shinman laughed heartily. Then, he glanced regretfully at Zagu 2, which had already fallen apart. What a pity. If Zaguai's condition was better, you wouldn't need to use this strategy. Fighting is not a game. Everything is a choice made for victory. Sinmin, you're being unreasonable. Mecha shook his head and denied Sinmin's statement. After all, he was a man who had been in and out of war countless times, so Sinmin quickly adjusted. If it weren't for the fact that he had lived in such a peaceful world for more than 10 years, Sinmin probably wouldn't have said such a thing at this time. Amazing! Big brother, are you a steel pull fighter? At this time, there was a cheer outside the battle room, which attracted the attention of Mecha and Sinmin. It turned out to be the child of the father and son duo. His eyes were full of yearning, and he looked longingly at Mecha. Mecha smiled faintly and nodded. From today onwards, I should be considered a steel pull fighter. Pa! Sinmin saw that it was getting late and pulled everyone's attention back and looked at Makoto Ito, who was also looking at Mecha with excitement, and said, "Chung, greet the guests first. We'll talk about our business later." Oh. Makoto Ito, who was slow to realize, quickly began to greet the father and son duo and asked about their shopping intentions. "Let's start too." Sinmin withdrew her gaze from the father and son duo and looked at Mecha and asked, "Before you came here, you were also a pilot?" "Yes. I've piloted a mobile weapon similar to the MS. Although the size wasn't as big as the MS, the mobility was really good." Mecha compared the data of Lancelot and Zaguai in his mind and said something that Sinmin could understand. "Is that so? Then, you should have your own ideas. Then, I won't say much. Go and choose. But this time, you'll have to pay for it yourself. I don't have that much money to let you play steel pulla until it falls apart." Sinmin said in the end, and didn't forget to tease Ray Minkai. Ray Minkai couldn't help but smile. He thought for a moment and came to the side of a container and carefully looked at the steel pulla placed on the container. He did have some plans, because in the previous Lu Lucio world, he learned for a long time, and because of the more flexible KMF, Ray Minkai's driving habits also leaned towards the body with excellent mobility. Moreover, in the battle just now, others couldn't see it, but Ray Minkai himself felt it. In his subconscious, he still couldn't forget the hook attack used when he was piloting Lancelot. Although this kind of attack was not a powerful attack in the steel pulla, and could even be regarded as a rare move, Ray Minkai still felt that he had to keep this attack for himself. Therefore, the options that allowed him to choose were narrowed down to a very small range. As Ray Minkai's gaze moved, an image of Gouda with a black cloak and a skull on top of his head was imprinted in Ray Minkai's eyes. Crossbone Gundam X1. Pirate Gouda X1. It's you. Chapter 83. Big Brother. Do you like the Pirate Gouda X1? Makoto Ito's voice sounded from his side. It seemed like he had already settled the father and son customers. Ray Minkai turned his head to look outside the shop and found that the little guy was hugging the Gouda W steel pulla model while laughing and talking to his father. You are Makoto Ito, right? Yes, I have plans to buy the Pirate Gouda X1. What do you think? Ray Minkai thought for a moment and threw the question back to Makoto Ito. Makoto Ito did not doubt him and began to think. Looking at his appearance, it seemed like he was recalling the battle when Ray Minkai was piloting the Zagawai, so as to evaluate Ray Minkai's choice of the Pirate Gouda X1. Ray Minkai did not disturb him, and only raised his head to look at Sinman, and continued to look at the steel pulla models other than the Pirate Gouda X1. Ray Minkai knew that in this steel pulla world, where magically modified machines were everywhere, relying solely on the original steel pulla model would not be able to win in the world competition. In order to have the power to stand out in the competition, the best and only choice was to modify the steel per model that he liked. Therefore, Ray Minkai also planned to look for other steel pulla models to equip the Pirate X1 Gouda and increase its strength. I got it. Big Brother, are you very good at close combat? Just now when I saw you piloting the Zago, you didn't use long-distance shooting, and more of you were passively defending and then counterattacking. Makoto Ito's eyes lit up as he looked at Ray Minkai, as if he found a peerless treasure. Yes, I am indeed better at close combat. The reason why Zagu I adopted a passive defensive and offensive strategy just now was also because Zagawai's condition wasn't very good. Ray Minkai nodded and continued. You saw just now? At the end of the battle, Zagu I finally fell apart due to the intense battle. Yes. I saw it too. If that's the case, then it means that, Big Brother, other than being good at close combat, you also have some long-range shooting ability, right? Makoto Ito held his chin and thought seriously. Yes, that's right. Although I haven't done any professional tests, I'm still quite confident in my shooting ability. As soon as Ray Minkai finished speaking, Makoto Ito suddenly hammered his palm. I've got it. Big Brother, the reason why you chose the Pirate X1 is because it's equipped with a hook claw, right? Oh, this time, it was Ray Minkai who was surprised. Other than him and Euphemia, no one in the steel pulla world knew that he was good at using the hook claw attack. Unexpectedly, Makoto Ito guessed it. Amazing. Makoto Ito. Indeed, I'm better at using the hook claw attack. Therefore, there aren't many bodies that I can choose from here. The Pirate Gouda is coincidentally my favorite. Lei Minkai didn't hesitate to praise Yi Chung for a while before stating his reasons. In that case, only the Pirate Gouda X1 is more suitable for Big Brother. However, I could suggest Big Brother to buy a few more boxes of other steel pulla so that you can obtain equipment suitable for modifying the Pirate Gouda X1. Makoto Ito's words made Ray Minkai nod his head. That's exactly what I was thinking. Right now, I'm choosing. As for the Pirate Gouda X1, can you help me put aside first? Oh, just as Ray Minkai and Makoto Ito finished talking, Simon walked over and looked at Makoto Ito with a smile that wasn't a smile. Boy, I didn't expect you to learn how to promote your own products at such a young age. When Simon said this, Makoto Ito, who was excitedly talking to Ray Minkai about the pirate Gouda X1, blushed and became very embarrassed. No, it's not like that. I just like the steel pulla. Makoto Ito secretly glanced at Ray Minkai, who was choosing other steel pulla models, and suddenly mustered up his courage and said, and Big Brother's steel pulla fighting skills are so good, presumably you will participate in the steel pulla world competition. Therefore, I was too excited for a moment. Hee. Chung, what an honest child. I was wrong about you. Simon faintly smiled. She raised her hand and touched Makoto Ito's head, and then looked at Ray Minkai. Kai, how do you feel? Ray Minkai retracted his gaze and said with a smile, he's a good child. No wonder that Big Shot values him so much. Big Shot? The conversation between Ray Minkai and Simon made Makoto Ito completely puzzled. Weren't they talking about the steel pulla just now? How did it become a conversation he didn't understand at all? Simon took out 2 letters from her satchel, handed them to Makoto Ito, and said with a smile, Chung, these are letters from your father. One is for you, and the other is for your mother. Father's letter? Really? Makoto Ito cheered. He first thanked her, then excused himself. He took the letters back to the cashier, opened the envelope, took out the letters, and read them. It seems that you have a good relationship with their family. Ray Minkai reached out and took down the model of the steel pulla printed with the words Metal Robot Soul Knight, Gouda, and other words, and the model of the Steel Knight standing in plate armor and holding a sword. He then looked back at Sinman and said, in addition to assisting new members like you, our guides are also responsible for the business of sending letters to the native members who leave this world and enter the fleet. Simon patted the satchel hanging on her waist, spread out her hands, and said, after a while, I became familiar with their families. Really? That's not bad. In just a few words, in addition to the steel pulla model of the Knight Gouda, Ray Minkai had 2 more boxes of other types of steel pulla models. These were the parts for the modification of the pirate Gouda X1. Makoto Ito, that's all. Help me put them in. Wait a moment. After reading the letter sent by his father, Makoto Ito, who couldn't help but smile, quickly helped Ray Minkai put in the steel pulla model that he wanted to buy. Suddenly, he paused, then subconsciously asked, oh right. Big brother, what's your name? My name? Ray Minkai smiled. My name is Ray Minkai. Just call me Kai. Makoto Ito. Kai? Okay, Kai. You can also call me Chung. Kai. After Makoto Ito casually asked Ray Minkai to change the way he called him, he entered a string of numbers on the cash register. This is a special price. Thank you for your patronage. Do you want to pay by card or cash? Ahem. Kai, just place your personal terminal on top of the scanner. Simon was afraid that Ray Minkai still didn't know how to use the personal terminal, so she timely reminded him. Oh, thank you. Ray Minkai took out his personal terminal and put on the scanner of the cash register. Ding! The transaction was completed. But Makoto Ito still didn't give the shopping bag with the steel pulla model to Ray Minkai. Chung hesitated for a moment, then asked loudly, Kai, I don't know if you can partner with me in the steel pulla world competition. When these words came out, Ray Minkai and Sinman both froze for a moment. This is really... Sinman, who knew the truth of the matter, patted her forehead helplessly. Kai, you solve it yourself. Ray Minkai patted Makoto Ito's shoulder, then took the shopping bag with the steel pulla model from Makoto Ito's hand, and looked down at Makoto Ito from above. His sharp gaze looked straight at Makoto Ito's expectant and worried eyes. Makoto Ito, although I'm very happy to receive your invitation, I'm very sorry. When he heard Ray Minkai's rejection, Makoto Ito immediately showed a dejected face and subconsciously tried to find an excuse for Ray Minkai's rejection. Is it? For someone as skilled as you, Kai, you should have a better partner. However, Ray Minkai's next sentence made Makoto Ito stare blankly in place, unable to recover for a long time. No, that's not right. Makoto Ito. Listen, I will only and can only become your enemy. Your enemy in the Steel Polo World Competition. Makoto Ito. If you want to participate in the Steel Polo World Competition, then I will be your biggest obstacle. When they left the model store, the sun was already setting in the west. With their backs facing the afterglow of the setting sun, Ray Minkai and Sinman, who were carrying the steel pull-a model bag, walked on the road with few people. Kai, how do you feel today? Sinman's gaze wandered around the bag in Ray Minkai's hand and asked. This was also part of the guide's job. After the mission began, the guide's every action would be used as a reference for the final assessment. Very good. This world is beyond my expectations. I didn't expect the model battle in my memory to be able to train real body technology. Now, I have a feeling that if I continue to fight like this, maybe the body I piloted in the past won't be able to keep up with my growth. Ray Minkai raised his right hand, clenched his fist, and felt the slight change that just occurred in his body. Hinman nodded and stopped in his tracks. He looked down at the street below and slowly said, That's right. As expected, you noticed it? That's right. This is also the reason why the pioneers and SPF authority set up this world as a logistics world. Ray Minkai raised his head and thought for a while, then looked back at Simon and asked, In the end, who is the pioneer that you always talk about? Hinman closed his eyes and faced the last rays of the setting sun as it sank into the horizon. He said softly, You're right. Who knows? Chapter 84. Hero, Hero, Hero. As soon as Ray Minkai and Simon walked into the house, they saw that behind the door there were a lot of chubby little guys jumping back and forth, constantly shouting. When they saw Ray Minkai and Simon standing in front of the door, they paused for a while, then burst out with louder and noisier voices, shouting noisily. Hero, Simon, Hero, Simon, Hero, guest, Hero, guest. Facing this situation, not to mention Ray Minkai's reaction, Simon's frantic look already proved that the chubby little guys filling the door in front of them were too noisy. Stop, Hero, Simon shouted, instantly suppressing the noise made by at least 20 Hero. Ka, ka. In an instant, the Hero that were jumping back and forth stopped in place, slowly shook their bodies, and uniformly looked at Sinman with their electronic eyes. Sinman slowly exhaled, looked at the entrance, and asked, Hero, is the Ministry of Justice's doctor here? Hero, sure we. Hero, sure we. Once again, the Herods began to bicker. The Ministry of Justice's doctor is here? Ray Minkai blinked. If this world was not Gao Da Seed World, he would have immediately guessed that the anti-fan Lakis Klein had come when he saw the Hero that filled the door. These Hero were made by the Ministry of Justice's doctor when he was bored when he was young. Although they are much smaller than Amulo's Hero, because the technology used to make Hero is the latest integration technology available to the authority, these little things are not as simple as just toy pets. After Sinman casually explained, she raised her hand again to stop the noise of the Hero. She ordered, Hero, help us put the things back in the living room, and then split out a few Hero to take us to the Ministry of Justice's doctor. Hero, take the things. Hero, take the things. As she spoke, 4 blue Hero rolled out of the Hero. They rolled in front of Ray Minkai and Sinman. Then their hands and feet separated from their round bodies. They nimbly took the things from Ray Minkai and Sinman's hands and hopped toward the entrance. Then the remaining Hero shook their bodies in unison, signaling Ray Minkai and Sinman to follow. They then turned around and hopped toward the path that led to the back of the mansion. The humanness and intelligence of these Hero made Ray Minkai, who was familiar with the image of Hero, extremely surprised. Do you feel that they're different from the Hero, you know? Sinman smiled, as if she was used to it. A little. Later, you may see something even more surprising. Sinman smiled and continued. The Ministry of Justice's doctor also has a room here. Usually, when he has nothing to do or is on vacation, The doctor will come to live here and relax for a few days. Deep underground in the garden behind our mansion is the doctor's laboratory. Laboratory? Is it that exaggerated? Lei Mingkai turned around to look at the huge villa, and then at the end of the road, where a corner of the garden was already in full bloom. Not really. It's just that the doctor is not used to a completely relaxed state, so he casually built an underground laboratory here to adjust his life. While the two were talking, the harrow leading the way in front of them brought them to the depths of the garden, in front of the huge relief that stood in the center of the garden. Then among the harrow, a red harrow rolled in front of the relief. It extended its mechanical hand and pressed a few buttons at the bottom of the relief. After a flash, an elevator door that led to the underground appeared in the center of the relief. Let's go. Since the harrow is waiting for us to come back at the door, I believe the doctor is also waiting for you. Simon walked into the elevator, surrounded by harrow. Lei Mingkai followed closely behind. The elevator quickly moved down in the dim tunnel. As the elevator moved down, the lively harrow stayed obediently at the feet of Sinmin and Lei Mingkai, looking at the height indicator above their heads without moving. Ding! After a clear pause and a clear notification sound, a brand new world opened up in front of Lei Mingkai's eyes. Ka! The moment the elevator door opened, what appeared in front of Lei Mingkai was a face with cold and hard lines. A familiar electronic eye, a golden horn, a golden armor, a mighty and sacred body, and a pair of huge wings folded behind it. This seemingly unfamiliar, yet strangely familiar figure made Lei Mingkai, who saw it for the first time, subconsciously call out the name that emerged from the bottom of his heart. RX, 0 Phoenix? No, it's not Phoenix. The name that Lei Mingkai called out was denied in the next second. As the harrow jumped out of the elevator and surrounded a graceful figure, the person looked back at the huge golden figure that Lei Mingkai felt familiar and said, "This is not Phoenix. This is a follow-up designed and built with Phoenix as the blueprint. Fire Phoenix Gao, the doctor, you're here." Simon walked out of the elevator and nodded at the person, who was also the Ministry of Justice, Hui. Well, I have 2 days off today and tomorrow, so I came here to rest. Is that okay? Sinmin, the Ministry of Justice, Hui, nodded and said, "You're welcome at any time. Merida will be very happy when she finds out. How about I go back and prepare dinner first?" Simon looked at Lei Mingkai and tactfully proposed to leave first. "Okay, let's have the steak from last time. Recently, the food in the Research Institute has been a bit bland. I want to change it up." "Okay. Kai, what about you?" Simon patted Lei Mingkai's shoulder. "Same steak." "Okay, then I'll go first." A minute later, the elevator that carried Sinmin returned to the surface, leaving Lei Mingkai and the Ministry of Justice, Hui, in the underground laboratory. Lei Mingkai looked around and found that although this place was called a laboratory, it was actually a spacious underground facility that could accommodate at least 5 Ms. Moreover, Lei Mingkai also saw that in other corners, there were tunnels that extended in other directions. The space of this underground facility was probably bigger than what Lei Mingkai saw. "Come with me. Your friend were just sent here." The Ministry of Justice, Hui, signaled Lei Mingkai to follow. "Harrow, follow. Harrow, follow." Before Lei Mingkai could take a step, the harrow around him urged Lei Mingkai to follow. "Doctor, you just said that this Gouda is not a phoenix?" "Ah, yes. The design data and technology of the Fire Phoenix Gao came from the Phoenix Gouda. Although the Fire Phoenix Gouda is not a phoenix, you can think of it as a descendant of the Phoenix Gouda, walking with her slender legs." Hui took out a chocolate bar from her pocket and waved it as she spoke. "What about its pilot?" Although he knew that this was not a phoenix, Lei Mingkai was still attracted by the gorgeous golden body. "What? You're interested in the Fire Phoenix? I'm sorry. This is Mimi's body." The Ministry of Justice, Hui, laughed and shook the chocolate bar in her hand. She continued, "If it wasn't for the Fire Phoenix Gao, just going offline, I'm afraid you wouldn't have the chance to see it. Moreover, If your friends can recover 50% to 60% of their strength, they wouldn't be much weaker than the Fire Phoenix Gao that just went offline. State 0? It's awake? Ray Minkai retracted his gaze and looked at the Ministry of Justice, who was fiddling with the electronic lock in front of the gate. It's awake, but fell asleep again. The Ministry of Justice, Shi Hui, entered the identification code into the security system of the gate and pointed at the gate that was slowly opening. Now, your friends seem to be in a state of energy shortage. In order to speed up its recovery, I tested and successfully found the most efficient method. Behind the slowly opening gate, a translucent round crystal ball was suspended in mid-air. There were flashes of lightning on both ends of the crystal ball. The constantly twisting lightning seemed to be the power that held the crystal ball in mid-air. In the crystal ball, the white cat, State 0, was relaxed and floating with its eyes closed. At the same time, the lightning that was dancing wildly on both ends of the crystal ball also penetrated the crystal ball screen and flowed into the white cat's body, causing the white cat's fur to flicker. Ray Minkai didn't ask, but passed the question to the Ministry of Justice, Shi Hui. In the previous test, this little cat seemed to have recovered some kind of strength, but because of this strength, this body fell into a state of overload that we can't find the reason for. Therefore, we have to provide suitable energy for State 0 to let it recover. Lei Minkai recalled a memory of a similar experience in the past. I heard from Mei that the reason she was able to confirm your existence was because the high-concentration energy crystal she gave you was consumed. Therefore, I speculated whether we can use energy other than the high-concentration energy crystal to replenish this little cat's energy. The Ministry of Justice, Shi Hui, pointed at the end of the twisting lightning on both ends of the crystal ball. There were 2 energy furnaces that were about 3 people wide. They are nuclear fusion reactors built on the basis of the Minovsky particle application technology. It is also the most suitable energy furnace that we can find for this little cat to absorb energy. But just as Ray Minkai was about to open his mouth to thank her, the Ministry of Justice, Shi Hui, handed over a list. Come, sign your name. These 2 nuclear fusion reactors aren't cheap. The Ministry of Justice, Shi Hui muttered, then smiled and said, Don't worry. All the administration's reserve members have discounts when buying any MS-related equipment. With your current funds, it is enough. The sudden turn of events caused Lei Minkai to be in a daze. After he subconsciously signed his name on the list, he realized in hindsight from now on he seemed to have a cat that could eat more than Big Orange. Chapter 85. Welcome back, Kai, and the doctor from the Ministry of Justice. As soon as he entered, he saw Euphemia standing at the entrance, welcoming him with a smile. Behind her, 4 harrows jumped out one after another and crashed into the group of harrows beside Shi Hui from the Ministry of Justice. In the blink of an eye, the harrows that were still quiet began to make a ruckus again. Harrow, welcome back. Harrow, welcome back. As their creator, Shi Hui from the Ministry of Justice helplessly held her forehead and waved her hand. Okay. Harrows, go outside and wait. Harrows, understood. Harrows, understood. In the midst of the ruckus, the harrows once again swarmed out of the door and obediently returned to the charging slot next to the door and entered standby mode. Sorry, when I was making them, I underestimated Harrow's ability to make a ruckus, and that's why it's like this today. After dealing with the noisy harrows with familiarity, Shi Hui from the Ministry of Justice explained with a headache. No, actually, harrows are all very cute. No matter what, they can make people feel happy and lively. Euphemia waved her hand, indicating that she was not bothered by Harrow's ruckus. Is that so? Now that you've said it, you've reminded me of someone. She's the same as Euphemia, and thinks that harrows are all very cute. As she spoke, Shi Hui from the Ministry of Justice walked in front of Euphemia and gently picked up a strand of Euphemia's hair and smiled. Also, you all have very conspicuous characteristics. For example, pink hair and the identity of a princess. Ahem. Ray Mingkai, who had already lost a large chunk of his wallet because of Shi Hui from the Ministry of Justice, saw that she was teasing Euphemia and finally couldn't help but open his mouth to stop Shi Hui's actions. Doctor, is this Lax Klein you're talking about? The princess of Plant. When Shi Hui of the Ministry of Justice heard this, she raised her eyebrows. Oh, you know what? However, your information might be outdated. Now, she was the head of the agency's External Affairs Department. Perhaps you will have the chance to meet her in the future. She also came to this world? This time, Ray Mingkai was somewhat surprised. That's not all. If you knew who your future boss was, you might be even more surprised. The premise is that you know that guy. From the words of Shi Hui of the Ministry of Justice, when she mentioned the latter, she seemed to have a bad impression of the latter. In this regard, Ray Mingkai had no choice but to ask further. Euphemia, who was able to escape from Shi Hui's teasing, spoke again. All right, Cinnamon had already prepared dinner. Why don't we go eat first? Okay, then I'll go first. Shi Hui of the Ministry of Justice nodded and took the lead to enter the living room. After Shi Hui of the Ministry of Justice disappeared from the living room door, Euphemia took 2 steps forward and asked softly, maybe I was overthinking. Did you have a conflict with the doctor? The perceptive Euphemia seemed to have noticed that there seemed to be some problems between Ray Mingkai and Shi Hui of the Ministry of Justice. Without thinking too much, Euphemia directly asked, No, it's just some unhappiness. Ray Mingkai spread out his hands and scratched his head in distress. He smiled bitterly and said, Actually, it's because of the matter with State Zero. Don't we all have a startup fund? Because State Zero is still in a state of hibernation, I had no choice but to buy a nuclear fusion reactor for the White Cat State Zero to use. Then, do you still have enough money? I still have some here. Euphemia's naivety made her not think too much. She took out her personal terminal and handed it to Ray Mingkai. No, although the reactor is very expensive, at least we still got some discounts. Now, I still have money here. UFFI, keep your money first. Ray Mingkai tactfully rejected Euphemia's good intentions. Although Euphemia could not persuade Ray Mingkai and could only take back her personal terminal, she still said, As long as you need it, you can come and get it from me, okay? Okay, thank you. I will. Ray Mingkai nodded. Then, afraid that Euphemia would insist on this matter, he added, Next, I will participate in the Steel Polo World Competition. As long as I complete the mission there, I will get back the money I spent. So, Euphemia, you don't have to worry. Okay, but if there's anything I can help with, please do tell me. I will do my best to help you. Kai. Suddenly, Ray Mingkai had a flash of inspiration and found a good way to divert Euphemia's attention. That's right. UFFI. Can you help me make something after the meal? Because the competition is getting closer and closer, I'm afraid I won't be able to finish the Steel Pulla. Steel Pulla? Is it the model battle competition that Merida brought me to today? Euphemia thought for a moment and immediately associated it with the competition that Merida somewhat deliberately brought her to watch during the day. Yes, if possible, I hope you can help me. Seeing the sincere expression on Ray Mingkai's face, Euphemia cheerfully smiled and said, Okay, please leave it to me. After the meal, because everyone had their own things to do, they all left the living room to deal with their own matters. Ray Mingkai and Euphemia carried the steel pulla models that Ray Mingkai bought during the day back to the room. This is the steel pulla? Euphemia looked at the boxes that Ray Mingkai took out one by one from the bag and carefully examined the printed pattern. It seems to be much stronger than the KMF. Ray Mingkai lightly smiled and casually explained, Of course. Even the strongest Lancelot in the KMF is less than 5 meters tall. And these mobile weapons called Mobile Sud, abbreviated as MS, are at least 13 meters tall. From the energy contained, armor, and equipment comparison, the KMF is no match for the MS. As he spoke, Ray Mingkai pointed at the Gouda box and said, Not to mention these MS machines that were given the title of Gouda, is that so? Euphemia frowned slightly, as if she was comparing today's competition process with the KMF that she had encountered before. However, no matter how Euphemia compared, she could not get a detailed answer. After all, what Euphemia saw was only the battle between the steel pulla models and not a real battle between the MS machines. Therefore, without the concept of a real battle between the MS machines, Euphemia decided to put aside these unnecessary thoughts and focused on helping Ray Minkai to complete the pre-match preparations. Then, Kai, what I need to do? Here, how about we try to put together this steel pulla first? Ray Minkai glanced at the steel pulla model box on the table, then took out a box with a purple-red MS figure printed on it and handed it to Euphemia. ZGMF X09A Justice Gundam, Justice Gundam, Justice Gundam? Euphemia carefully read the printed words and looked at Ray Minkai in confusion. Kai, this is the steel pulla that you used in the competition? Ray Minkai smiled and shook his head. No, the steel pulla that participated in the competition is not this, but this Pirate Gouda X1. Where? Why did you make this steel pulla? Euphemia seemed to have turned into a curious baby at this time. This. In fact, I don't need the steel pulla model itself, but I need a part of it to modify this Pirate Gouda X1. Ray Minkai extended his finger and gestured back and forth between Pirate Gouda X1 and Justice Gouda, explaining in detail to Euphemia. It's like this. Then, even if it's my first time making the steel pulla, aren't you afraid that I'll break it? Euphemia blinked and asked carefully. Ray Minkai couldn't help but smile. No problem. If you're afraid of UFFI breaking it, you can make the body of Justice Gouda first. As for the backpack, you can make it after you're familiar with it. After receiving Ray Minkai's guarantee, the excited Euphemia immediately began to act. But before that, Euphemia stared blankly at the production tools on the table. Seeing this, Ray Minkai couldn't help but smile. He took the Justice Gouda model box from Euphemia's hand and took out all the boards from it. He placed them on an empty table while picking out the tools that Euphemia could use one by one. This is a pair of pliers, a utility knife, a pen knife, and a steel ruler to cut the plate. Currently, your goal is to successfully cut the parts of the steel pulla from the boards and put them together. We'll talk about the rest later. Euphemia's eyes moved back and forth between the boards and tools. Her little head also nodded up and down. Then, UFFI classmate, please pick up a board and see if there's a letter pattern on it. Upon hearing that, Euphemia reached out and picked up the black board closest to her. She immediately saw the letter logo that Ray Minkai had mentioned. Found it. Euphemia pointed at the letter and said, Very good. Then, UFFI classmate, please find the instruction manual. Then follow the instructions given in the instruction manual and separate the boards one by one. Remember, this is the first step of assembling the steel pulla and also the most important step. Yes, my lord. Suddenly, Euphemia looked serious, but she mischievously responded to Ray Minkai. Ray Minkai helplessly smiled and let Euphemia organize the boards first. As for him, he began to assemble the Pirate Gundam X1. Compared to Euphemia's simple beginner-level assembly, Ray Minkai's requirements for the Pirate Gouda X1 must be several levels higher, or else he might not even be able to enter the finals. Chapter 86. In the wee hours of the morning, when Ray Minkai woke up from his concentration on making Pirate Gouda, he found that Euphemia had fallen asleep on the table. And in front of Euphemia, a steel pulla model that had already been formed was lying there, being gently held by Euphemia's right hand. UFFI, UFFI. Ray Minkai glanced at the Justice Gouda that had already been completed by Euphemia, then reached out his hand and gently shook Euphemia's shoulder, but in the end, he was unable to wake up Euphemia. Looking at Euphemia, who was murmuring from time to time, Ray Minkai was in a dilemma for a moment. Although it could be said that both of them liked each other, but in reality, that fragile paper had not been broken yet. In a dilemma, Ray Minkai could not help but turn his head and look at the clock on the wall. 3:00 in the morning. At this time, Sinmin, Merida, and the Ministry of Justice's Shi Hui should have already fallen asleep. If he carried Euphemia back like this, it shouldn't be discovered, right? As soon as this idea popped up, Ray Minkai immediately rejected it. The risk was too big. If by any chance they found out, then it would be a big joke. Silence for a moment. Euphemia stayed in his room until 3 o'clock in the morning. It seemed to be a bigger joke, right? After letting his imagination run wild, Ray Minkai finally shook his head helplessly, bent down, and gently carried Euphemia in his arms, preparing to move her to the bed to let her sleep more comfortably. However, Ray Minkai did not expect that when he carried Euphemia, Euphemia's hands would suddenly wrap around his neck, and her small head also shrank into his arms. Night, night, my lion night. The waves of unconscious murmurs passed from his arms to his ears, making Ray Minkai not know what to say for a moment. Smelling the fragrance from Euphemia's body, feeling Euphemia's soft body, Ray Minkai gently placed Euphemia on the bed and removed her hand from around his neck. After pulling the blanket over Euphemia's body, he hesitated for a moment and finally slowly leaned over and gently kissed Euphemia's forehead. Good night. I hope you can have a good dream. Your Highness. After Ray Minkai whispered this sentence in Euphemia's ear, Euphemia seemed to sleep even deeper, and a smile also seemed to appear on the corner of her mouth. The clock was still slowly moving, and Ray Minkai's work was still far from ending. Even if the main part of the Pirate Gouda X1 was already completed, there was still the armed part, coloring, and other post-production work that was still waiting for Ray Minkai. Seems like I have to stay up all night. Ray Minkai lightly pulled open the curtains, took a look at the crescent moon in the sky, and said lightly, "Early morning." When the bright and beautiful sunlight passed through the thin curtains and scattered on Euphemia's delicate little face, Euphemia, who woke up from her beautiful dream, slowly opened her eyes. Where is this? Discovering that she was not in her own room, Euphemia was confused for a moment, and immediately after, she immediately recalled the promise she made with Ray Minkai last night. That's right. Last night, I promised to help Kai make the steel pull a model. Thinking to hear, Euphemia immediately looked around. The first thing she saw was Ray Minkai, who was sleeping on the desk. Kai, why are you sleeping over there? Once the words left her mouth, Euphemia's little face immediately turned red, because she realized that she was the one who occupied Kai's bed. Luckily, Ray Minkai is currently asleep. Otherwise, Euphemia would probably have to bury herself in the blanket again. In a panic, Euphemia hurriedly got down from the bed and quietly walked to Ray Minkai's side. With a glance, she saw that steel pull-a model that was placed on the multi-purpose support on the desk in front of Ray Minkai. The moment Euphemia looked over, her gaze was immediately attracted by the steel pull-a model that was draped in a black cloak. The deep black cloak was lightly draped on the Pirate Gouda X1's body, and other than the protruding chest and head, the rest of the body was completely covered. Even if the majority of the body was covered by the black cloak, Euphemia was still able to feel the strong metallic texture of the steel pull-a model from the exposed head and chest. In addition, on the back of the steel pull-a model, a completely unfolded thruster that was in the shape of an X passed through the specially left empty space on the cloak and appeared in front of Euphemia's eyes. This is the steel pull-a model that Kai wants to use? Euphemia stared at the sinister skull on the Pirate Gouda X1's head. She couldn't help but have the thought that this steel pull-a model was definitely very formidable. At this moment, the eyelids of Ray Minkai, who was lying on the desk, sleeping, moved. Euphemia, who was keenly aware of this movement, hurriedly retreated a few steps, but unexpectedly stepped on the empty box that Ray Minkai casually placed last night when he was making the steel pull-a model. With a cry, Euphemia lost her balance and carelessly fell to the ground. And once Ray Minkai heard the movement, he suddenly opened his eyes and discovered Euphemia's appearance on the floor. UFFI, how did you get here? Ray Minkai was startled at first, then immediately got up and extended his hand to pull Euphemia up. No, nothing. Good morning, Kai. Euphemia, who was afraid that Ray Minkai would continue to ask, quickly changed the topic. Ray Minkai looked around the room. After discovering that there was nothing out of the ordinary, he smiled at Euphemia and said, "Morning, UFFI." Finished speaking, Ray Minkai raised his head to look at the time and discovered that it was already 9 in the morning. Not good. It's too late. Looks like we have to seize the time to wash up. Realizing that both of them had overslept, the two of them hurriedly took the time to wash up, then returned to their respective rooms to change their clothes and stepped into the dining room together. In the end, they were greeted with 3 mocking gazes. "Yo, morning." Following the sound of laughter and the waving of a chocolate bar, Ray Minkai knew that it was the Ministry of Justice who had cut off a large chunk of his wallet yesterday. "Morning, Sinman, Merida, and Professor." Compared to Euphemia, who was still hiding behind him, Ray Minkai's expression was much calmer. "Morning. Breakfast is toast, sausages, and eggs. I've already heated up milk for you. It's on the table. Go ahead and eat. Later, I'll be going out with you, Kai." Simon's gaze swept over Ray Minkai and Euphemia a few times, then lowered her head to look at the newspaper in her hands. "Yes, UFFI. Aren't we going to school here today? It's getting late." Merida also helped Euphemia out. Okay. Let's eat breakfast now." Euphemia was so anxious that she almost bumped into the stool next to her. Fortunately, Ray Minkai held her back. "Don't rush. Let's finish breakfast first, then we'll talk," Ray Minkai said softly. "Okay, Kai." Of course, Sinman and Merida were not in a hurry to take the two of them out. Instead, they considerately let Ray Minkai and Merida wash up after breakfast to eliminate some of the accumulated fatigue from staying up late. Only then did they prepare to go out. "Kai, your steel pull-a model should be finished, right?" Standing at the entrance, Simon looked at Ray Minkai, who was wiping his head and preparing to go back to his room to change into his clothes. I've finished the main part and the basic equipment. If it's the steel pulla, it shouldn't be a problem." Ray Minkai stopped wiping his head and waited for Simon's reply. "Is that so? Then, go change your clothes. Next, we're going to the same place as Merida and the others." "Oh, it's also a local school?" Ray Minkai rolled his eyes and guessed. "Hee. Yes, there's a guy there that you might want to meet. Maybe he'll be one of your rivals in this competition." Sinman stroked her beard and said while thinking, "You have to know that even EZ, who is far away in another universe, paid a certain amount of attention to this person when he learned about him. He thinks that if he continues to grow, he might become the new captain of the MS Force." "Oh, Sinman, are you talking about that brat?" At this time, Minister of Justice Sherhui, who never left her chocolate bar, walked out of the living room and asked, "Have you seen it before?" Sinman nodded and looked at Minister of Justice Sherhui with some confusion. Minister of Justice Sherhui's work and rest rules were extremely simple. Other than the Research Institute, she would go back and forth between her home in Xinyao City or her home in the Steel Pulla world. I saw him last time when I helped Mei Mei solve the major failure of the Palisky particle system. Let's not talk about other things. That brat's level of enthusiasm towards the battle with Tempera makes me feel like he's a pilot born to fight." Sherhui shrugged her shoulders and turned around to walk towards the small door that led to the back garden. "I'll stay in the lab for the day. There's no need to cook my dinner." "What about tomorrow?" Simon shouted. Minister of Justice Sherhui stopped, turned around, and said mischievously, "Prepare a big meal for me. After I go back tomorrow, there will be a big project that will take a long time. By then, I won't be able to come here for a while." "Okay then, just look forward to your luxurious breakfast." Sinman promised Minister of Justice Sherhui and patted Ray Minkai's shoulder. "Minkai, go change your clothes. If you continue to dawdle, your princess will come down." Chapter 87. Private Holy Phoenix Academy. Standing in front of the plaque with the words Private Holy Phoenix Academy printed on it, Ray Minkai's prediction was confirmed. In fact, after Simon told Ray Minkai the characteristics of the person she wanted him to meet today, Ray Minkai had a preliminary guess. Moreover, later on, the Ministry of Justice's Shi Hui gave a detailed hint. If there were no accidents, then the person Rei Minkai wanted to meet today was the soon-to-be third-generation Kawaguchi celebrity, Tatsuya. Merida and the others just sent a message, saying that they will meet us in the afternoon. Simon's voice came from behind. Not long ago, the two girls who were originally scheduled to come to the private Holy Phoenix Academy together suddenly received a message from the Ministry of Justice, asking them to help her buy some personal items from the business district. Therefore, Mari Dang and Euphemia had no choice but to postpone their arrival at the private Holy Phoenix Academy. Okay, then should we go in? Right now is the time for class. It should be to prevent unrelated people from entering, right? Rei Minkai looked at the security uncle who was sitting in the security room at the main entrance, looking at Rei Minkai and Simon from time to time. Simon looked and scratched the back of her head. Okay, just follow me. In the end, the security uncle who seemed to be guarding to death immediately stood up after seeing Simon's appearance and deftly opened the small door beside the main entrance that was only for pedestrians to enter. Director Simon, you came back to see the students. When the security uncle opened his mouth, Rei Minkai was startled. Director? Simon, you worked at this academy before? Facing Rei Minkai's question, Simon seemed a little embarrassed as she nodded. Yes. Before, when I brought Merida and the others to settle down here, I took the position of director of teaching at this academy, which could be considered one of the few legitimate jobs I have. Looking at Simon's indifferent expression, Rei Minkai was a little curious. When Simon took the position of director of teaching, what did the students of this academy think of him? One must know that this fat man with gray hair in front of him was a ruthless person who galloped on the battlefield and gave the Federation Army a headache. Director, you must be joking. I still remember that when you, Dean, were still here, our academy's enrollment rate was maintained at over 90% all year round. Moreover, every single student who graduated from the private Holy Phoenix Academy would eventually become the sought-after goods of various large enterprises. While Sinman was disapproving of his achievements, the security uncle, standing on the side, was incessantly talking about Sinman's glorious history. Okay. Today, I didn't come back to review the past. Can I bring this friend in? When Sinman saw the security uncle endlessly talking about the glorious history that even she didn't know about, she immediately stopped him. Yes. The dean often talks about when he will ask director to come out again. AI, these past few years, our academy's enrollment rate has been on the decline. The dean is worried to death. Under the security uncle's nagging, the expressionless Sinman brought the curious Rei Minkai into the private Holy Phoenix Academy. You don't have to worry about those things. Minkai, you should focus on the steel pulla competition. Shinman suddenly stopped and turned around to look at Rei Minkai with a serious expression. It seems that Sinman didn't want Rei Minkai to be distracted. Rei Minkai blinked and nodded. He quickly suppressed the fire of gossip in his heart. Are we going to the student union? While walking in the academy, the school bell suddenly rang. No, that guy shouldn't be at the student union at this time. Perhaps there was a place where he could find him. Come, follow me. Sinman stood in the middle of the walkway and looked around the two teaching buildings. After looking at the students who left the classroom with a relieved expression, she turned around and led Rei Minkai to the other side of the field. Over there was a basketball court with a steel pulla battle system. However, before Rei Minkai could get close, a faintly discernible clamor came from the half-open door. It's in the middle of a competition, Rei Minkai secretly said in his heart. He could not help but wonder if Makoto Ito had met Lingshi and collided with Chung Tatsuya. But then again, according to the timeline, it was only the second day after Makoto Ito was defeated by Jin Sasaki. It seemed that it was not Lingshi's turn yet. So, who else could it be other than Chung Tatsuya, who was fighting in the steel pulla in the basketball court? Okay, don't think about it. Once we go in and take a look. Simon pulled Rei Minkai, pushed open the half-open door, and walked in. In the blink of an eye, The unique light emitted by the Pulaski particles occupied Ray Minkai's eyes. In this light, two steel Pula models that were fighting fiercely were shuttling back and forth. Ray Minkai could tell at a glance that between the two fighting sides, the steel Pula model that was painted in gold and had a round and thick shape was the Golden Su Mo from Turnagauda. Well, it was a captain's model. The other steel Pula model that was fighting with the Golden Su Mo was a little strange. Although from the outline, Ray Minkai could see that the main part of the steel Pula model was based on the blue Haydn from Gauda's seed, the other parts were obviously a combination of styles from many Gauda's works. For example, the shoulder armor had the cylindrical design of Leo from Gauda's W. The legs seemed to be a mix of Shizabi's huge leg armor. After some observation, Ray Minkai could find the style of Gauda's work from the weird blue Haydn, but no matter how Ray Minkai recognized it, the steel Pula model that was fighting with the Golden Sumo was simply an aesthetic disaster. However, when Ray Minkai expressed his disdain for the weird blue Haydn's appearance, the Golden Sumo was reversed by this weird blue Haydn. It seized the opportunity and launched a fatal blow, blowing up the Golden Sumo who had been fighting with it for a while. The battle is over. With the victory and defeat of the battle system, the battlefield formed by the Pulaski particles also disappeared, and the two sides that had just ended the battle appeared in front of Ray Minkai's eyes. Standing on the left side of the battle system was a burly teenager who looked no different from a gorilla at first glance. Ray Minkai remembered that this person's name was Quan Tion. He was one of the members of the private Holy Phoenix Academy's model department. Opposite Quan Tion was a person that Ray Minkai was somewhat concerned about. The arrogant expression, chic hairstyle, and the strange patterns on the left and right sides of his face all made Ray Minkai feel that this person should not be from this world. Sinmin, is that person also a reserve member of our administration? Ray Minkai asked in a low voice beside Sinmin. Sinmin's gaze moved down and fixed on the person's left hand. After confirming that he was indeed wearing a dark watch with streams of light on its surface, she nodded affirmatively. Yes, he is also one of the reserve members. It seems that the person we are looking for will have to go on stage and fight with him. Fight? A pre-match match? Simon shook her head and said in a deep voice, No, it's not a pre-match match. Now, it's considered an official match. This is a match outside the arena. It has nothing to do with the World Tournament. Simon's answer surprised Ray Minkai, and he quickly asked, Why do you say that? Is this how the qualification for the World Tournament is determined? No, it's not. This is just a match between the reserve members and this world's steel Pula fighters. As long as our reserve members defeat more than 3 of the top 5 players in a region, they can directly advance to the national tournament. Simon's gaze had been sizing up that person. She stroked her beard and continued. On the other hand, as long as this world's steel Pula fighters defeat 5 of our reserve members, they will automatically advance to the World Tournament. Isn't this unfair? Ray Minkai frowned. The reserve members must win 3 matches to advance to the national tournament, while this world's steel Pula fighters can directly advance to the World Tournament if they win 5 matches. Unfair. Kai, you should still have money in your wallet. Think about when you first started. How much money did you have in your wallet? In this world, as long as you have money, you can get a powerful steel Pula model for the underworld. What's more, we can be called otherworlders. To the people of this world, many times we are superhuman existences. Simon's gaze moved and fell on the youth who replaced the gorilla. Therefore, this rule can already be considered fair. After all, from the regional tournament to the national tournament, relying solely on a powerful steel Pula model won't be smooth sailing. Tatsuya Yuki. Hearing Simon's explanation, Ray Minkai's gaze focused on the student who took out a red Zaga steel Pula model from his bag. How fervent his eyes were. His fighting spirit was burning fiercely. He was looking forward to the next battle. Are you the strongest person in this region? The reserve member looked at Chung Tatsuya and asked with a haughty voice. Strongest person? Tatsuya Yuki chuckled, his eyes erupting with a dazzling light. I'm not the strongest person. However, if you want to have a steel pull-a battle with me, I will definitely not refuse. Is that so? Then, let me see the strength of you, the strongest person. Stone tempering heresy. Stone tempering heresy? What a strange steel pulla. However, my steel pulla will not lose to you. This is my steel pulla model. Amazing Zagu. Outlander. Come, burn to your heart's content. Chapter 88. Red Comet. While Rei Minkai and Sinmin were watching the battle, a voice suddenly sounded behind them. Sinmin, who looked back subconsciously, was shocked. She quickly stood at attention and gave a military salute. Brigadier General Lars. You don't have to be so polite. Sinmin. Now, I'm just like you, an old retired man. Just call me Lars. The person who came was a dignified old man with a mustache. His figure was smaller than Sinmin's, but he was still considered fat. He slowly stepped forward and stood in front of Sinmin and Rei Minkai. He looked at Rei Minkai, then looked at Sinmin and asked, "Is this the reserve team member that Sinmin is leading this year?" "Yes. His name is Rei Minkai." Hinman nodded and then looked at the reserve team member who was fighting with Yujo Tatsuya, as if he had just realized something. "Could it be that he's the reserve team member that you're leading this time?" "No, Lars." The person who came, Lars, nodded slowly, but his expression was not very good. In Rei Minkai's opinion, Lars's expression seemed to be more of disappointment. It seems that the reserve team members this time can only be disqualified. Although the battle on the field was fierce, Lars still shook his head. If you just rely on the power of the steel pulla, there is no way to defeat Tatsuya Yuki, who is known as the Red Comet, the strongest high school student and the regional champion of the last world competition. As soon as Lars's voice fell, the battle on the field came to an end. Just now, in the battle with Golden Sumo, the insufferably arrogant stone-grinding heretic was easily cut into 3 pieces by the amazing Zagu, who was wielding the double electrothermal swords, and ushered in the end of the battle with a loud explosion. The battle is over. Defeated. The arrogant face was full of unwillingness. The pupils that were contemptuous of Tatsuya Yuki just now felt that the big word defeated was so dazzling. Impossible. I spent hundreds of thousands of points to buy the model. How could it be defeated so easily? Huh? You were the one who bought this temper model? No wonder I can't burn it all. It's just a pile of trash. Yujo Tatsuya, who had sensed that something was wrong since the start of the battle, finally realized the source of that strange feeling from the preparatory team members' words. It turned out that the steel pulla model was just a pile of trash was bought with money. No wonder. This model is worth hundreds of thousands of points. Shut up. Just as the preparatory team member refuted Tatsuya Yuki, Lars suddenly shouted and walked past Rei Minkai and Sinmin. He quickly stepped forward and stood in front of the preparatory team member, grabbed him by the collar, and dragged him out of the stadium. Director Sinmin. Long time no see. Immediately afterward, before Sinmin could step forward to talk to Tatsuya Yuki, he took the initiative to come to her door. "Student Yuki, I haven't been a director for several years. It's not right for you to address me that way." Sinmin shook her head and corrected Tatsuya Yuki's way of addressing her. Tatsuya Yuki smiled slightly and did not take Sinmin's words to heart. The dean said that no matter when, as long as Director Sinmin wants to return to the school, then the position of director and even the position of dean will be handed over to Director Sinmin. The dean is joking. Sinmin waved her hand and immediately changed the topic to Rei Minkai. "Student Yuki, this is Rei Minkai. He is also preparing to participate in this year's Steel Polo World Competition." "Oh, is he also a participant?" Tatsuya Yuki looked at Rei Minkai and suddenly showed a very interested look. "If you're really a participant, then you should have the steel pulla model that you made, right? Are you interested in a match?" Tatsuya Yuki did not hide his thoughts and directly said it. Rei Minkai's eyes looked past Tatsuya Yuki and fell on the steel pulla battle system placed in the center of the stadium for a while, then looked at Tatsuya Yuki and said frankly, Actually, my steel pulla model was made last night by staying up all night. You don't mind, right? Oh, you stayed up all night to make it? As soon as he heard Ray Minkai confess the process of making the steel pulla model, Tatsuya Yuki's eyes became more and more interested. It seems that you are really different from the Outlander just now. Then, let's have a match. How about it? Outlander, you know of our existence? Ray Minkai once again heard Tatsuya Yuki mention this term. In this world, there shouldn't be many people who know about the existence of the authority. Could it be that Tatsuya Yuki in front of him is one of them? If you want to know, then let's have a steel pulla match. Under Tatsuya Yuki's invitation, Ray Minkai walked in front of the steel pulla battle system and took out the Pirate Gouda X1 that he stayed up all night to make last night. The appearance of the Pirate Gouda X1 immediately attracted Tatsuya Yuki's attention. Pirate Gouda X1? You completed it well, but it seems that you only completed the main part and the basic equipment, right? Tatsuya Yuki's eyes were very sharp. He saw the current situation of the Pirate Gouda X1 at a glance. After all, I stayed up all night to make it. Ray Minkai put the Pirate Gouda X1 in the attacking position and nodded. Is that so? Then, I'll remove all the long-range weapons from the amazing Zagu, leaving only the close-range weapons. This is a fair duel under the same conditions. Tatsuya Yuki minded his own business and removed all the rocket launchers, pistols, and rifles from the amazing Zagu, leaving only the 2 thermal army knives. Thank you. Ray Minkai wasn't pretentious. He knew that, even if he counted the steel pulla match yesterday, it was only his second time coming into contact with the steel pulla. Facing an opponent like Sasaki Jin was fine, but facing Tatsuya Yuki, who even Izzy-I valued, it would be extremely stupid to be so careless. Ready? Can we begin? Tatsuya Yuki put the amazing Zagu in the attacking position and looked up at Ray Minkai, standing opposite him. Begin. Steel pulla battle system activated. Palevsky particle diffusion. As the unique and beautiful particle light of the Palevsky particle filled the entire battle area, the battlefield belonging to Ray Minkai and Tatsuya Yuki was also created at this moment. Battlefield 5, Urban Area. In the blink of an eye, a city with all kinds of buildings inside the colonial satellite appeared in front of Ray Minkai and Tatsuya Yuki. Ray Minkai, Pirate Gouda X1, attack. Tatsuya Yuki, Amazing Zagu, attack. Both of them shouted at the same time. The Pirate Gundam X1 and the astonished Zagu also lit up their electronic eyes the moment their respective pilots gained control of the ship. Under the push of the catapult, they rushed into the city battlefield. Boom! The Gundam X1's black cloak fluttered in the breeze, making the cloak flutter. Not bad. Ray Minkai, your steel pulla production technique is very good. Tatsuya Yuki, who was switching back and forth between multiple cameras, looked at Pirate Gouda X1, who was quietly standing in the middle of the street for a while, and sincerely praised. I made a fool of myself. Ray Minkai smiled faintly and gently turned his left hand. Pirate Gouda X1, who was standing in the middle of the street, removed the ABC anti-beam cloak on his body and was blown to the end of the street by the breeze. Tatsuya Yuki was a little surprised. Pirate Gouda X1 pulled out his beam saber and took a stance. This is a fair duel under the same conditions. Tatsuya Yuki. Hearing Ray Minkai's explanation, Tatsuya Yuki laughed a few times. Ha ha, good, well said. This is a fair duel under the same conditions. In that case, we shouldn't beat around the bush and have a head-on duel. Amidst Tatsuya Yuki's loud shout, the astonished Zagu with his back against the building turned out of the street. He extended his hands to his back and pulled out 2 thermal sabers. He pointed both of them at Pirate Gouda X1, who was standing not far in front of him. Before we fight, I want to say a word of thanks. Tatsuya Yuki's voice was low, but it faintly contained a flame that was about to explode. Why? Ray Minkai asked. Because after that boring duel, I was able to meet you, an opponent that made me feel like I'm burning. Therefore, I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful that you accepted my duel invitation. Ray Minkai snorted and laughed. If you want to thank me, say it after the duel. Hee hee, that's true. Come. Boom. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, the astonished Ja Gu and pirate Gouda X1 simultaneously exploded the output of their thrusters to the maximum. They charged towards the enemy at full speed. Buzz! The beam saber in pirate Gouda X1's hands chopped down diagonally from the upper right. Boom! The astonished Ja Gu's thrusters suddenly paused. Then, they once again exploded with their maximum thrusters. This sudden change caused the astonished Ja Gu to narrowly brush past the beam saber that pirate Gouda X1 had chopped down diagonally. Immediately after, the astonished Ja Gu lowered his body. He actually used the thrusters on his feet to quickly dodge to the left side of pirate Gouda X1. Watch out! Tatsuya Yuki shouted loudly. The thermal sabers in the astonished Ja Gu's hands chopped towards pirate Gouda X1's waist. If this chop landed, pirate Gouda X1 would definitely be chopped in two. Hiss! However, the instant these two thermal sabers that should have caused pirate Gouda X1 to die with a grievance were about to chop pirate Gouda X1's waist, a dazzling red light suddenly unfolded and solidly blocked the thermal sabers. It was a beam shield. The beam shield on pirate Gouda X1's left arm had promptly unfolded. The instant the beam shield unfolded, pirate Gouda X1's beam saber followed closely behind, heading straight for the astonished Ja Gu's chest. Tatsuya Yuki's eyes flashed. The astonished Ja Gu suddenly leapt backwards, once again narrowly avoiding pirate Gouda X1's beam saber. That was close. Ray Minkai. Very good. Very good. You really didn't disappoint me. His gaze focused for a long time on pirate Gouda X1, who had unfolded his beam shield and was wielding his beam saber. Now I feel it. Ray Minkai Kai. I feel that my steel pulla are about to combust. Chapter 89. The radiance emitted by the Palevsky particles filled the entire gymnasium, illuminating every face that was focused on the steel pulla battle before them. Among them, most of them only knew that one of the participants was the private Holy Phoenix Academy's student council president, Tatsuya Yuki. However, they didn't recognize the stranger that was currently fighting with him. They simply discovered that this stranger was different from the arrogant-looking youth that had previously fought with Tatsuya Yuki. He was actually able to exchange blows with Tatsuya Yuki. How is this possible? He's actually able to exchange blows with the department head for so long without falling into a disadvantageous position. The gorilla Quan Tian had a sluggish expression as he watched the fierce battle on the stage. He knew that for the sake of a fair fight, Tatsuya Yuki had chosen to forego the long-range weapon equipped by Amazing Zagu. He had only relied on the pair of thermal blades to fight with pirate Gouda X1. However, even so, this stranger that Quan Tian didn't think to be very powerful had actually appeared several times, forcing Tatsuya Yuki to have no choice but to increase the distance between them and temporarily slow down his offensive. On the stage, Tatsuya Yuki didn't know about the astonishment of the spectators. What he knew was that the blazing flames that had already ignited in his heart had nearly ignited his entire body. It's burning. It's burning. Right? That's it. This is the steel pulla battle that I wanted. Amidst Tatsuya Yuki's shouts, Amazing Zagu floated on the ground and rapidly advanced. The pair of thermal blades were crossed in front of his chest. In the blink of an eye, Amazing Zagu was like a comet colliding with the earth. He charged straight towards pirate Gouda X1, who wasn't too far away. Buzz! Pirate Gouda X1 didn't dodge or evade. He stepped forward, lowered his waist, and leaned his body forward. His left hand opened up the beam shield, while his right hand held the beam saber at his waist. He appeared to be defending to the death. Not dodging, Tatsuya Yuki's eyes shone as he looked at the silhouette that was covered by the screen formed by Palevsky particles. No, this was a head-on confrontation. Me and Pirate Gouda X1 will not dodge. Tatsuya Yuki, come on, let me see the power of the red comet. From Raiminkai's loud cheers, Tatsuya Yuki sensed a similar hot-blooded feeling. Good, that's exactly what I wanted. Astonished Jagu, unleash your full power. At this very moment, Tatsuya Yuki's voice was so sharp and hoarse. It was as though Zagu's pair of thermal sabers had struck the beam shield of Pirate Gauda's X1's left arm, ruthlessly piercing into Raiminkai's ear. Boom! The thermal military knife's formidable power actually suppressed Pirate Gauda's X1 in an instant. Even with the protection of a powerful beam shield, the Pirate Gauda X1 couldn't help but take a step back from the shock of Jagu's explosive strength. 2 steps, 3 steps, a full 3 steps. Pirate Gauda X1 finally stabilized his footsteps, stopping astonished Jagu's attack after these 3 steps. The sparks from the Palisky particles frantically danced around the area where the thermal military knife and the beam shield came into contact. Flickering, they illuminated Pirate Gauda X1 as well as astonished Jagu. His attack was thwarted. Tatsuya Yuki didn't become discouraged because of this. Instead, he launched his next attack with even more fervor. Moreover, his classic lines hung from his mouth. Burn, burn, burn. Astonished Jagu's right hand moved, changing from a chop to a stab. He forcibly inserted the sharp tip of the thermal military knife into the edge of the beam shield. What? It can actually pierce through the beam shield. In the next instant, the scene of Pirate Gauda X1's beam shield being pierced through by astonished Jagu's thermal military knife made Raiminkai endlessly shocked. Surprised? Yes, that's it. Although the Palisky particles only react to plastic as a weapon, it doesn't need to have a reaction. Tatsuya Yuki's words resounded in Raiminkai's ears. At the same time, he saw the thermal military knife showing signs of melting under the violent energy collision of the Palisky particles. Moreover, during the melting process, Raiminkai saw a trace of metallic radiance quietly appearing. Plastic blade, metal blade? Good idea. Raiminkai cheered. Both his hands pushed forward. Pirate Gauda X1 didn't retreat, but instead advanced. He actually attempted to forcibly resist the beam shield, forcing his way towards astonished Jagu. A contest of strength? Come. Tatsuya Yuki's eyes widened. Not showing any weakness, he pushed his hands forward. Astonished Jagu stretched out his right leg, forcefully stomping on the ground. At the same time, the thrusters on his back erupted with 2 violent flames. The low roar of particles resonated through the sky. The sound of the wind was actually suppressed by the roar of the flames. Boom! Pirate Gauda X1's advancing footsteps paused. Astonished, Jagu counterattacked. Don't even think about it. Pirate Gauda X1 definitely isn't that simple. Attack for me, Pirate Gauda X1. Just like the astonishing Jagu, following Raiminkai's unreserved release of energy, the X-shaped thrusters on the back of the Pirate Gundam X1 also ferociously released 4 dazzling and powerful flames. Compared to the astonishing Jagu, the Pirate Gundam X1's propelling force was even more powerful and violent as it shot back. What? Astonished Jagu's thrusters are actually not a match for Pirate Gauda X1. Tatsuya Yuki saw astonished Jagu, who had just successfully stopped Pirate Gauda X1 not long ago, was once again pushed back. Astonished, he spoke. That's only natural. When Pirate Gauda X1 was first designed, we already considered the influence of Jupiter's gravitational environment. Therefore, astonished Jagu's thrusters are simply unable to contend against Pirate Gauda X1. Astonished Jagu's footsteps continuously retreated. The more he retreated, the more he was unable to maintain his footing and contend against Pirate Gauda X1. Compared to his current retreat, the previous action of piercing through Pirate Gauda X1's beam shield was not worth mentioning. Splendid. However, even if that's the case, so what? In a battle of steel pulla, It's not the mech statistics that determine victory. Tatsuya, Yuki bellowed. Astonished Jagu's footsteps staggered. He retracted his right hand, and the heat energy military knife that had pierced through the beam shield was retracted back to his waist. Astonished, Jagu's left hand immediately exerted force. He firmly pressed the heat energy military knife that was held in his left hand against the beam shield. He firmly suppressed Pirate Gauda X1, not allowing it to divert a single bit of attention to astonished Jagu's next action. Rapidly turning around, his left hand pushed and then hurriedly retracted. In an instant, Pirate Gauda X1, who had lost the ability to interact with each other, swayed. Astonished Jagu took advantage of this momentary gap to pass by Pirate Gauda X1 and flashed to Pirate Gauda X1's right side. Got it! Astonished Jagu's rapid turn brought forth a gust of wind. The heat energy military knife in his right hand's grip condensed into a sharp edge, and he chopped horizontally towards Pirate Gauda X1's side. Oh! When a spectator saw that this was practically the most crucial moment of the entire battle, they couldn't help but cry out in surprise. However, Raiminkai's expression remained calm. He wasn't the slightest bit frightened by astonished Jagu's current performance. Pushing forward with his left hand and pulling back with his right hand, Pirate Gauda X1, whose body hadn't yet stabilized, took a step forward with his left foot. He forcibly stopped his forward charging posture in place. At the same time, he brandished his beam military knife to the side behind him. Without even looking, he chopped horizontally towards astonished Jagu's waist. Mutual destruction. Wah! This sudden and drastic change made everyone hold their breaths. They were afraid that they would miss a single change. Hey, interesting. Faced with Pirate Gauda X1's sudden decisiveness, Tatsuya Yuki felt Raiminkai's "if you don't live, then I die" resolve. However, he didn't have any plans to let astonished Jagu and Pirate Gauda X1 destroy at the same time. Suddenly, astonished Jagu retracted his beam military knife that was chopping towards Pirate Gauda X1's back. In the blink of an eye, he lowered his body and ferociously kicked out with his left foot. He went straight for Pirate Gauda X1's foot. As long as this attack hit, then Pirate Gauda X1 would lose control and fall to the ground. At that time, he would be at astonished Jagu's mercy. The sound of the wind broke through. However, he lost sight of the enemy. Disappeared? No, he's above. Astonished, Jagu raised his head. He saw Pirate Gauda X1 hanging on the right side of the building. At its waist, a tough steel cable was currently connecting it to the hook claw that was firmly fastened to the building. So that's how it is. Wonderful. Raiminkai, your technique has already exceeded my expectations. Looking at the man who had repeatedly made his killing moves miss, Tatsuya Yuki sighed from the bottom of his heart. You flatter me. I'm just being a little cautious. Raiminkai didn't feel proud because of this. From the battle just now, Raiminkai had fully felt Tatsuya Yuki's strength. This seemingly even battle was actually because Tatsuya Yuki had taken the initiative to give up on astonished Jagu's long-range weapon. Otherwise, Pirate Gauda X1, who only had close combat weapons, would have faced a bitter battle. Hee. Cautious? If you only rely on caution, then you won't be able to fight with me for so long. Raiminkai, this attack will determine victory. Tatsuya Yuki chuckled and opened his mouth to suggest. That's exactly what I was thinking. Pirate Gauda X1 leapt and landed not far in front of astonished Jagu. Pirate Gauda X1 quickly retracted his hooks to his waist. Pirate Gauda X1 held his beam saber with both hands and once again assumed an all-out attack stance. Astonished Jagu also took half a step with his left foot. His body slightly leaned forward and the pair of heat sabers once again crossed in front of his chest. This attack determined victory. Wong, wong, wong. The beam saber was humming. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The heat saber was burning. At this moment, the entire arena was silent. When a silent atmosphere reached a critical point, Raiminkai and Tatsuya Yuki's eyes lit up at the same time. Using all the strength in their bodies, they shouted, "Now!" The flames of determination suddenly erupted. Two flashes of light appeared on the battlefield. One was red, the other was black. The two flashes of light with distinct color differences were like comets descending to Earth at this moment. They drew two perfectly straight trajectories on the street, rushing towards each other. This attack determined victory. The instant the two shouted at the same time, the red comet and the pitch-black pirate's hands simultaneously emitted a fatal radiance. The radiance faded away. They crossed each other. The rumbling sound of the Mecha's operation became silence at this moment. Who won? This was the voice of all the spectators present. After personally witnessing this match, they suddenly felt that no matter who won, it didn't seem to be that important. The important thing was that they wanted to know the final result of this match. It seems that I was careless. No, it's you who let me win. Tatsuya Yuki. If you didn't take the initiative to give up on your long-range weapon, I'm afraid I would have already lost. Tatsuya Yuki and Rei Minkai said one after the other. Boom! But just as they finished speaking, the pirate Gouda X1 and the astonished Jacques Gu, who were standing with their backs facing each other, unexpectedly let out an explosion at the same time. In the billowing smoke, the pirate Gouda X1's right hand was completely cut off. His waist had a scar that almost chopped the pirate Gouda X1 into two pieces. And that astonished Jacques Gu simply broke into two pieces amidst the explosion, rolling on the ground. The match is over. A draw. The instant the steel pull-a battle system made the judgment of this match, the audience was in an uproar. Everyone was not stingy with their applause for this splendid match. The Palevsky particles dispersed. Tatsuya Yuki had a carefree smile on his face. He took the initiative to bypass the battle platform, arriving in front of Rei Minkai, and extended his right hand. Truly a splendid match. I am Tatsuya Yuki. Rei Minkai gave a knowing smile and extended his hand to shake Tatsuya Yuki's. You are very strong. Tatsuya Yuki. I am Rei Minkai. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.